Chapter 51. I spent the rest of the day resting. No grinding, no plotting. Just hanging out at the apartment and watching TV, or even reading a few shard books. I finally finished another chapter in the Solo's Guide, but decided to put that to the side soon enough because it too felt a little too much like training still. I had never been a particularly focused person in my last life. I wasn't dedicated to self-improvement. I liked TV shows, and games, and movies far too much for that. So why was it that I barely did any of my favorite things in this life? Was it a good thing? Some people would say yes, but I wasn't sure it was healthy for me. The closest thing I had done creatively had been working with tech, but that was just another aspect of grinding to grow stronger. Every aspect of my life was rotating around improving my ability to kill. Was that right? It didn't bother me exactly. I liked it. I liked fighting, and I loved being better than others at killing. Anyone who played nearly any video game could attest how great it felt to be strong. But was that all I wanted out of this second life? Was all the freedom I had thanks to my growing skills only meant to create paths towards more killing, more death? No. I realized that my life wasn't just this. As much as I enjoyed it, I shouldn't exist solely as a merc. I mean, this wasn't a game, even if I was a gamer. Did I want to spend the rest of my life as nothing but a killer for hire? No. I had just been having so much fun I hyper-focused. Oops. So I took the rest of the afternoon to watch future TV shows, some of which were at least interesting, and some awful. I didn't really like TV in the future. I didn't really like the books. But I also hadn't really searched for things I would like. It's like watching daytime TV and thinking that was all that was on the TV. As I explored the different channels and read, I was texting with Hiromi, who confirmed she had gotten permission to skip school to come along to the Alda Caldo barbecue road trip with the best chum as a go. Finally. I groaned as I pulled out from Hiromi's garage the next morning. I had been running late as June had gotten all protective when I told him what I was up to. It had taken me a few minutes to remember I was 14, and heading out to the Badlands to party with a bunch of nomads. So okay, when you put it like that, June had a point. But when I explained, it was mostly about what we had done that night, and that I certainly would shoot anyone that tried something, plus, Hiromi was coming. He had finally loosened up and I had managed to escape his clutches. Hiromi hadn't taken long to flop into the car. Her bag of snacks she was bringing along dropped onto my own bag of goodies once she settled in. Woo! She screamed out the window as we headed out onto the city streets. Freedom! Don't be too happy yet, chum. We have a long drive to get there. It'll be a lot shorter if you let me drive. She grumbled at me, and I just chuckled. She had no idea. I drove safely, and followed all the laws within the city, but as soon as we started hitting dirt, well, I waited for Hiromi to be slightly distracted, with nothing on the road in front of me, when I suddenly floored it. Her jerking reaction to my sudden acceleration was great. Her mouth full of some chips, or some snack food, meant her shocked gasp sent her into a coughing fit as I tore down the road. Motoko! She said in delight when she finally got herself back under control, and seeing me absolutely flooring it over the desert road. Hiromi! I chirped back, completely at ease, despite going so fast. You're going fast. So I am. I said, smiling, which had her giggling in delight. So there is a troublemaker in there. I'm not in the city, and there is no longer a posted speed limit. Of course I'll drive how I want. I said simply, but my firm tone was ruined by my lips fighting back more smiles. You are such a gonk. You should just drive like this from now on. Nah. June made me promise not to drive fast in the city. I apparently scared him the last time I did it. I wanted to see that. She said, laughing, and I just shrugged as I noticed my turn off. With a casual press of the clutch, shifting slightly, and then pressing on the brake, I was in a perfectly controlled drift. Hiromi couldn't enjoy the look as she wasn't wearing her seatbelt properly, despite my multiple warnings to stop taking it off. So she soon found her face pressed up against the passenger window for a few moments until I finished the drift and was heading straight down the new road. Wah. She muttered, looking delightfully confused at her new situation. I told you to put your seatbelt on. Hold on. I said as I was coming up to the next street I needed to turn onto. This time Hiromi was actually able to realize what was happening. I ended up pouting from then on, because she didn't scare like June, instead whooping and hollering in delight every time I drifted. It wasn't fair. I wanted to mess with her. I pulled up to the Aldecaldos camp, going a much more sedate speed. Despite Hiromi's badgering to speed up again. I didn't want to come in too hot with the nomads. I pulled up to the camp and parked off the road near where a few of their cars were parked, including a few familiar and freshly painted cars. I stepped out, Hiromi following me a moment later. Her head was practically on a swivel as she took in the new location. Be cool, Hiromi. I reminded her as I walked up to a familiar face who was walking up to greet me. Motoko. Scorpion. I greeted right back, smiling as the older man laughed and to my surprise instantly invaded my personal space, pulling me into a hug and literally spinning me around. Nice to see you too, Scorpion. I mumbled a little dazed as he set me down. I still owed you that from when you pulled my ass out of the raffin nest. Who's your friend? He asked, pulling away a bit, giving me some space. I'm Hiromi. Motoko's best chum. She said suddenly at my side and grabbed my arm. Hey, nice to meet you. Any friend of Motoko is one of mine. He said with a smile before turning and waving me on. Come on, I bet you're hungry, the drive out from the city takes forever. Let's get some food in those bellies. Saul is distracted right now, so it's the best time to meet everyone. Scorpion offered with a laugh as he guided us deeper into the camp. A few minutes later, with a plate full of barbecue ribs, that were definitely not actual meat, but was tasty. And something that looked sort of like pulled pork, but wasn't. I was sitting around a table with a few nomads all tossing around stories of their own run-ins with the raffin, made me realize how nice it all was. I get it. I understand the reason nomads live like this. Out on the plains and deserts of America. The freedom was only part of it. The other part was the connection you feel with everyone. These people weren't all blood related, but they were all family. All lived together, got along, and knew each other's jokes. There was an actual connection between them. Something that was missing from Night City. It was nice. And then she sits in the closet and waits for the guy to finish up, if you know what I mean. Hiromi's voice suddenly pulled me away from hearing about other raffin raids over the years. Hiromi. Don't tell people about that. I called out as I quickly put down the pretty tasty barbecue I was eating to yell at my chum. Motoko, you literally recorded it. You can't complain about people talking about it. She offered, looking to Scorpion, who was sitting beside her, and who she was telling the story about. I don't know how, but the two had swiftly started swapping stories. Mostly about me, and seemed to be getting along. You really hid in the closet? Scorpion asked, looking half a second away from bursting into laughter. It was the only other door in the room. They didn't catch me or anything. And he was fast. At least. I grumbled a bit, but Scorpion was already chuckling. You said this was a BD. Where can I get a copy? I gotta see this. Motoko gave me my set, but it's the Mox, right? Hiromi asked, and I sort of twisted my hand. Honestly, I'm not sure it's officially a Mox thing. Nox is the guy selling the BDs. It was his idea, and well, he is a Mox, but I'm not sure how official it all is. If you really want a copy, I can figure something out. I've been to Lizzie's before. I mean, dash. Oh. When did this happen, Scorpion? A voice called out, and I looked up only to be forced to fall into cold blood to keep myself from gasping in delight. Panem. I watched in delight as she threw an arm over Scorpion's shoulder and teased him about having visited the BD bar when in the city. She glanced over Hiromi and me with a curious look, before it suddenly struck her. Oh. You're the one that cleared up the raffin. And saved Scorpion. She said, a teasing and drawl added on the end, but I could tell it was to tease Scorpion, not because she didn't care. I'm Motoko, this is Hiromi, my chum. Yeah. That's me. I added, smiling at the older woman. What else could I do? Panem was cool. And we wore similar outfits. She had a leotard and jeans on too. She was obviously a woman of excellent taste. Then I guess I owe you one. Name's Panem. You saved Scorpion, so you're owed one in my book. She said, reaching over and pushing Scorpion a bit on the shoulder, earning a slapping hand in return. A few moments of nearly sibling squabbling went on, much to my delight. Yeah, I guess I kinda liked the nomads. It was cozy. Then, a voice cut through all the chatter. So this is her. The man was instantly recognizable to me. Saul. The head of the Aldecaldos. Or at least this group FO them. The man in charge. Saul. Yeah, this is Motoko. Scorpion called out, pushing Panem's hand away where she had been messing with him. Motoko, this is Saul, leader of the Aldecaldos. He introduced me and I nodded, grabbing a napkin and wiping away as much of the barbecue sauce around my mouth as I could. Thanks, Aldecaldos, couldn't have introduced me to your leader until after I was 2 hands deep into a plate of barbecue, huh? Nice to meet you. I added once I was cleaned up. Walk with me. He suddenly said, and while he didn't quite start walking away, he made it obvious it was more command than request. I kept a smile on my face even if I wasn't the biggest fan of being ordered around. I let it go. Just couldn't take it personally. Saul was used to getting his way, that's all. Besides, I wanted to know what he was thinking. Nomads didn't usually welcome people into their camp like this, at least as far as I could pick up. It's not like most people in Night City even gave more than a passing thought to the nomads. They were a different breed as far as Night City residents were concerned. I rose up, waving off Hiromi, as she was rising to stand up as well. Scorpion, keep Hiromi company, okay? I asked, and he gave me a nod, and the table seemed to relax as Scorpion started up another story to Hiromi, who looked conflicted but settled down. I followed after Saul as he started walking through the camp, not really seeming to head anywhere in particular, just walking around. Twice now you've done us a favor, and that I can't just ignore. He finally said as we came to a quiet part of the camp, empty tents, and places where people slept set up all around. Not a fan of outsiders doing us favors. Always leads to some sort of trouble. But I also can't just let it go. You saved Scorpion. Even if he was doing something he wasn't supposed to, he is one of us. I was just hired for a job. I demurred, but Saul just ignored it. You don't know, but the Wraiths have been in a frenzy since then. Twice now we've been raided. You saved Scorpion, but threw the Wraiths into a frenzy. Now you did it again. You helped us, gave us access to new vehicles, but the fact is, you also made living out here more dangerous. With so many cars lost, the Raffen will seek out new ones. See the problem? I guess I understand what you are saying. Poking the Raffen means they try to poke back. Exactly. He stopped walking, turning to me. Which was annoying as the guy was pretty tall. And I was only 14. I appreciate your help. I do. You did us a favor with good intentions, but good intentions can still cause us problems. The Wraiths really that big of a deal? I've killed a bunch of them by now. How many more do they have? Hundreds. Thousands. He answered simply to my surprise. You city folk think the Raffen are just another street gang, but they are worse than that. They hunt anyone on the roads. Doesn't matter who. The Wraiths circling Night City are more than 1,000 strong. My clan only has 500 and some extra. I blinked at that. Those numbers were crazy. The camp here only had what, maybe 100? Seeing my confusion and looking around, he scoffed. We don't all stay together at once. Too many mouths to feed in one camp. Split up, it's easier to keep everyone fed, but makes us easier prey. So why not gather all together and wipe out the Wraiths? I asked the question that had been bugging me for a while. The Aldecaldos were a massive group, even if they were spread out across America. They have backing, kid. You think the corporations aren't more than happy to have a bunch of sociopaths like the Wraiths willing to hunt people for them? You noticed all the equipment they had at the camp you rescued Scorpion from, didn't you? Ever wonder where they got all the expensive sensor gear for their camp? Militech, Arasaka, Kong Tao, or any of the others. Any corp that wants a competitor to have some trouble, to have shipments suddenly stop arriving through the badlands. Saul grunted, scratching at his beard for a moment. I see. The Corps use them as deniable forces, hit their enemies. It's not like the Raffen are considered a threat to anyone outside the badlands. Exactly, but that's not what we are here for. He looked to me, his green eyes dark. The clan owes you a debt. I don't like owing debts to outsiders. Twice now you've helped us. I can't pay you for the vehicles, not fully. Not in eddies. He said bluntly. Okay? So what can you do? Honestly, I'm not bothered about it. I don't much like the Raffen, so just hurting them was good enough for me. Well, I am. We pay our debts. Always. I've been forced to think about what we can do. What we can afford to offer in exchange for the cars. Damn Scorpion for being so stupid to take them without asking. He cursed suddenly. To my surprise, the man looked stressed. Saul? Not your fault, kid. Not Scorpion's either. He was right to do it. This is my problem. The vehicles were needed, but now I'm stuck trying to figure out how to pay for them. He grumbled, looking down at me with a look in his eyes that expressed his frustration. Yeah, Saul wasn't having a good day. Okay, so let's push Eddie's off the table. Again, I only called up Scorpion because I knew he needed a ride. And that he could get the vehicles out of Wraith hands. You guys did me a favor that night. Hardly. Wraiths are a nomad problem. Not exactly something street kids have any issues with. They shot me. So yeah. I have an issue with them. Getting shot makes me testy. I countered instantly, a little heated. But fuck it. You don't have eddies? Fine. I'm not really hurting for eddies anyways. Merc work pays well. So what do you have? You want to pay me back? What can you offer? Membership. He said suddenly, surprising me. You're young. Gotta know how shit it is in the city. Join our clan. Become an Aldecaldo's nomad. We'd welcome you. It might take a while to adjust, but you've proven yourself to my people. You'd fit in here. I can't. I refused instantly, shaking my head. I have family in Night City, friends. As nice as it sounds to wander the desert, living life as it comes, it's not for me. I'm a city girl. Well, I expected as much. He said with a shrug. But still. You're welcome here. That offers some benefits. You might not realize it, but most of us have military experience. You want to be a merc? Then you'll need knowledge, stuff you can't just get on the street. We can help. We'll help. We have stuff we make that can be useful to someone looking for a fight. He tilted his head over and led me to a truck, which when he opened up I understood what he was saying. That's a lot of guns. He nodded, having flicked on the lights to the moving truck, showing me the inside was literally an armory. We keep well armed. Even have things you can't find easily in the cities. He said, pointing out a beautiful Tektronika SPT-32 Grad. It was an anti-material sniper rifle. I want one. I want one so bad. Bitches love cannons. Instantly, I walked over to it. It was resting on a bench tool strewn around. Someone was tinkering. No, I noticed as my eyes scanned it down. Someone had already tinkered. This wasn't just any grad. It was the fucking Overwatch. I instantly hyper-focused on the suppressor attached to the end of the thing. I didn't remember the exact name of the nomad, but one of them had managed to get a suppressor working on the AT rifle. Okay, who did this, and where are they, because they need to teach me. I told Saul as I started taking scans and checking over the Overwatch. Mitch. He made that during the war. Saved his hide a few times from the stories he tells. Not for sale. Don't want it. You wanted to pay me back? Then, I'll consider it a fair trade if you have Mitch teach me about his work on this baby. It old him, my hands already feeling over the suppressor as my eyes scanned it down. Huh. Bit of a tinker, are you? Yeah. Just a bit. I mumbled, looking over the overwatch. Normally, a suppressor was either screwed into the barrel, or an attachment you would hook over the edge of a muzzle brake and lock in. This one? There was no separate attachment. The entire barrel was a custom job, suppressor included. Which was crazy. Suppressors didn't last forever. So Mitch would have to replace the entire barrel pretty consistently. Unless he figured something interesting out. I'll talk to him, see if he's willing. But that alone doesn't square us. So let's talk. I would be happy with a few of the shinies that were hanging around the armory, but as my eyes scanned the inside of the place, something caught my eye. That. I demanded with a pointed finger. What? Kid. What would you even use one of those for? We don't even use them. Those are the words of a man who has never created a situation to shoot a rocket launcher before. That's the deal. I said hungrily, looking over the stack of boxes that had Tektronika T40 Uragan stamped on the side. I recognized the name. They were rocket launchers. 10-shot homing rocket launchers. Why didn't I have a 10-shot homing rocket launcher? Saul let out a sigh and shrugged. Fine. But if anyone ever asks, you didn't get them from us. Deal. I didn't have any real use for a rocket launcher, but being able to say, hey, I have a rocket launcher, is all the reason I could ever need. Chapter 52. It took a while to get everything sorted with Saul. First I got my Uragan, of course, but I also got dragged around to talk to Mitch, and a few other nomads regarding some of the stuff I wanted to know. Mitch had been a bit grumpy about having to give away the knowledge of how to craft his baby, the Overwatch. Which really just meant the suppressor. Turns out the reason it worked was a little trick with some crazy nanite goop that he had come across and fiddled with during the war. The inside of the suppressor was literally a nanite swarm. Fucking cool. He did relent to give me the blueprints for how to make the stuff myself in a shard, but only after I promised to never tell anyone else. Works for me. It's not like I wanted someone else to have a silenced-at rifle. With that done, and everything packed up in the trunk of the Quadra, I went looking for my chum. Hey Hiromi. I greeted as I settled down onto the wooden stump beside her. I had found her sitting around a fire pit where all the nomads were hanging out. A few were even singing along to songs a cowboy was strumming out. It was homey, and Hiromi was obviously having fun. Motoko. Done doing business? For now. Saul finally pushed enough stuff at me that he isn't feeling bad about a debt anymore. But we are welcome to hang around. What's this? I asked as I took the seat next to her. Oh, Daniel over here isn't bad with a guitar, and nomad karaoke is hilarious. She tells me, the last part in a whisper. Grinning in delight as the singing continues, some weird country-sounding tune that was very cyberpunk being belted out at the top of the group of singers' lungs. They were obviously drunk, and having the time of their life. Preem. I said with a laugh as the voice cracks were making me giggle along with Hiromi. Hey, don't poke fun, unless you are willing to do it too. Scorpion said, over Hiromi's head. He was sitting on Hiromi's other side, laying back and seemingly enjoying the atmosphere. No way. I don't sing. I denied, instantly crossing my arms in an X. But this of course only threw blood into the water. Scorpion and Hiromi both turned to me with a sinister grin. Don't even think about it. I grumbled. But that only made it worse. A few moments later I was being pushed into the singing spot and watched over by my betraying chums. Come on. I don't even know the lyrics to these songs. I grumbled, but that only made Hiromi giggle all the louder. But you know the samurai songs. Hey hey. Mark, play Chip Pin In. Motoko knows the lyrics. Hiromi called out, but I was trying to smother her. No, I don't. I hissed, but then cheers went up around the fire as the intro to Chip Pin In started up. Fuck. That's not the lyrics. Scorpion cheered and I felt myself flush a bit. Fine. I went cold, which thankfully cleared out the embarrassment. Mostly. See, can you feel it? I belted out the first words to the song, only stumbling a little on the words as the drunk nomads cheered. Mark, the guitar player, wasn't perfect, but he did a pretty good job of keeping up with the tempo of the song, and I had listened to the songs pretty often while driving around Night City. Or just on the radio while I was tinkering or grinding. So fine. Yeah, I know the lyrics. What of it? When the song finally came to an end, everyone was cheering Hiromi, laughing in delight as she hugged my side, and the nomads were just having a great time. I blew out a heavy breath, making Hiromi giggle even more. You're so bad, it's great. So embarrassing. I uttered now that I let go of the cold blood. Now kids, be nice. Relax kid, this is just meant to be fun. You should hear Saul trying to sing to his favorites. Man is completely tone deaf too. Anyway, you a samurai fan? Mark asked from his stump. I guess? Well hell, let's do another then. Not often I get to play the classics. You aren't Silverhand, but I'm not Uridine. Just have fun with it. Mark the guitar player said, strumming a few notes and smiling up at me. No, I think I'm done playing Rocker Boy right now. I grumbled, which had Hiromi pouting. But the nomads laughed along, and soon another song was playing, which gave me a bit of time to check on my menu. I had gotten a beep of an alert coming in while I sang, and that was weird. What the hell was leveling up? Then I opened it and nearly choked on my tongue. Rocker Boy experience gained. Skill not unlocked, no XP gained. Rocker Boy unlocked. What the fuck? Rocker Boy. I was blinking away my shock, trying to process when I remembered. In the TTRPG, Rocker Boy was one of the classes, like how Solo or Netrunner were a few of the others. I guess. It made sense. 2077 had streamlined the classes as part of the system, just creating the skills as part of the skill tree. D hadn't had any Rocker Boy skills, but then again, he also had Johnny Silverhand in his head, sort of acting as a max-level Rocker Boy. So I guess this was a thing. Fuck. It was so embarrassing. I had been singing. I was level 0, that meant my skill was garbage. If I had known, I could have grinded out a few levels and actually been amazing before I had to sing in front of strangers. Hiromi. This is all your fault. I groaned into my arms as I put my head against my knees. I could feel my ears burning. I was pouting for the next few minutes. I knew that. Hiromi knew that and was even teasing me a little for being all embarrassed about it. But it was. I was gonna go home and grind so hard. I was gonna be an amazing Rocker Boy the next time Hiromi tried to embarrass me, and then I would shock her. She would be like, Motoko, you're so amazing. I'm so sorry for trying to embarrass you, and stuff. It would be perfect. Wait. It made me think. I did like music, I just was terrible at it. Wasn't music a pretty good hobby? I could play an instrument and sing, and it would give myself something to do completely outside of me being a merc. I could grind and practice it while having fun making music. There. See Rita. I can do more than just merc stuff. Something that wasn't murdering people, or better ways to get to people to murder. This could work. Hiromi poking my cheek distracted me from my thoughts. Come on Toko, don't be so grumpy. It was just one song. I shook my head, wiping the thoughts away. I wasn't going to let a little embarrassment hold me down. I'm fine. You want to grab some more food? I asked her as I rose up and she nodded, reaching up to grab my hand as we wandered back to the kitchen area. Barbecue. It was pretty good even if it wasn't real meat. As nice as it was, I did eventually get started on the drive home that night. I didn't really feel like sleeping in one of the nomads' tents, as nice as they were to offer. With everything decided between me and Saul, I packed up Hiromi in the passenger seat, as she was getting pretty drowsy by now, and started driving home. As we headed out, I left the headlights off. Honestly, my Karoshi let me see better without the light. Trying to see into the darkness through the bright lights was actually harder. Can you even see anything? Hiromi asked, surprising me, and of course my many years of filling my brain with movies provided me an answer. I see everything. I said back, mimicking Arnold's voice for a moment. Terminator 2. Such a good movie. Then I realized Hiromi had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. I see just fine. Want me to turn the lights on so you can see? Not ain't anything to look at anyways. You okay to drive? Not dash she broke up her sentence with a long yawn. Tired? I'm fine. Actually a little energized. I talked to a mox I know the other day and she suggested I take up a spiritual hobby, something that won't just leave me running towards fights all the time. I think I found it. I told Hiromi. Although afterwards her many questions were ignored, I would tell her when I was ready. Because music was very spiritual. It wasn't directly related to me being a merc. I could grind and practice it while having fun making music. There. See Rita. I can do more than just merc stuff. I was tempted to start grinding on the way home by singing along to the radio, but Hiromi was there, and my stat was still 0. And I hadn't gotten any alerts for doing that before. There may be more to grinding it than just singing along to a recorded song. I would need to experiment. After dropping off a sleepy Hiromi at home, I didn't instantly head home myself. Instead, I did a quick search and went looking for a store. Luckily, this was Night City. A 24/7 music store was pretty easy to find. It was mostly empty at this time of night, but it would do. I walked in. The instruments along the walls weren't open and free to take, all of them secured and under surveillance, and a pop-out turret if my eyes didn't deceive me. This was Night City after all. Instead, I found a guitar that I thought would work and let the man at the counter know. Only after paying for it did he go bring it down. I did grab a how to play the guitar shard as well on my way out. It was cheap, and I honestly didn't know how to play. I just needed enough of a start to hit level 1, and I should be good to go. So I headed home. The apartment was quiet when I got in, and I dropped the guitar on the living room table right next to my laptops, and my tinkering gear. And my guns. Okay, so June may have a point when he talks about me needing to clean up a bit. Speaking of June, I peeked into his bedroom and he wasn't there. Considering how late it was, that made me a little concerned, so I sent off a text asking if he was alright. Then sighed in relief that he wasn't here as I headed back outside to my quadra. The Urigan needed to be brought inside. After successfully, mostly, bringing the crate with the launcher and ammunition into the apartment and hiding it under my bed. I mean, not hiding it. Because hiding it meant I was embarrassed I now had a rocket launcher. I was just saving it for later. Along with a few of the other goodies that Saul had sent me off with. Honestly, I was just glad the quadra had a big trunk, because it had all barely fit. Once that was done, I settled down on the couch. Okay Motoko, just play the guitar, I told myself as I picked it up, and strummed a chord. Well tried too. I winced at the tone in my head. The noise was, well, it wasn't any musical note I had ever heard. Realizing how loud it could be as well, I grabbed my cord out of the back of my neck and pushed it into the access port of the guitar. One of the reasons I bought this guitar specifically. I could jack into it, and instead of playing the sound aloud, it would play in my head. I also grabbed the how to guitar shard and clicked that in, following along as it walked me through playing baby chords. The problem was, it wasn't giving me any experience. I stopped after about 20 minutes with nothing to show for it. What am I missing? I wondered, grumbling as I rested back and closed my eyes. It wasn't just singing or something, because I sang along to the radio plenty of times. Was it the people? With no one to hear, did I not get Rocker Boy XP? That seemed annoying. I guess I could go outside and play on the street? The flutter in my stomach at that thought told me that wasn't going to happen. Instead, I decided to try a few other things. I turned on the radio until I found a song I actually knew the lyrics for, and started singing along, strumming the guitar as best I could following along. When the song finished, I flushed in pleasure. 100 Rocker Boy XP gained. Okay. So I could gain XP without people watching. What was it exactly though? I continued working on it, a few hours of grinding, and I had some basic answers. I had to actually complete the song to get XP. From start to finish. If I stopped halfway, I got nothing. I guess my system agreed that the show must go on. Each completed song seemed to get me an alert, so completing a full song was the way to grind. which meant I spent a lot of time on Moro Rock for the samurai songs. But it worked. As I played along song after song, singing and trying to strum the guitar to the right chord. It wasn't the right chord, ever. It was an attempt. Completing a song, right or wrong, was where the XP came from. But it didn't matter. Alerts came in, and eventually, I got it. Rocker Boy skill level up. And suddenly I knew the basic chords. I couldn't perfectly pick out the right chord to a song, but I now at least knew when I was on the right track. I adjusted my fingers, actually holding the damn thing correctly now, and with a movement played my first real chord. My playing along actually started to sound okay. Just okay. So I needed more levels. As I worked on it, I was trying to memorize more songs as well. I wasn't very good at it, never could remember lyrics to songs perfectly well. Thankfully, as long as I kept trying, the system didn't seem to care if I butchered some lyrics, which I did. A lot. Which is why I was forced to change radio stations at times. Some of the songs were things I had never heard before. Couldn't exactly sing along to a song you've never heard before. But it was taking a lot of concentration to get right, which is why I didn't hear the door. I was halfway through Resist and Disorder by the Cartesian Duelists, one of my favorite songs in this world so far, when June suddenly walked in. I could feel my throat close as my soul died. I had been audibly singing. He looked at me. I looked at him. His lips twitched. Mine quivered. I could feel the heat shooting up my neck. My cheeks, my ears were all growing red. I just knew it. He turned and walked into his room without a word, and honestly, I wasn't sure if that was better or worse than if he had actually said something. I turned the radio off. I was done grinding. Instead, I pushed my face into a pillow and pretended nothing existed for a while. Chapter 53. So I may be taking the whole concept of getting a non-combat hobby a little far. I had spent the entire night playing away. Although I had to practically whisper the words, it still counted as long as I kept playing the guitar until the song ended. So through the night I got little alerts, drip-fed in. I had even hacked into the radio to have it play through my agent so I wouldn't wake June. That had only taken a few minutes to set up, and I had even gotten an intelligence alert from it. Grinding Rocker Boy actually went pretty quickly. With Rocker Boy level 1, I was actually somewhat capable of keeping up with the music, and in fact had a pretty nice advantage. My arms were chrome. I didn't get tired, my fingers didn't get sore. I didn't have to worry about my fingers needing calluses. I could simply strum the strings, play the chords, and keep hammering away at it through the night. So I did. At first it wasn't fun. I didn't know enough modern music to play along with, as I wasn't exactly a musician in either life. So I had to keep trying, working through songs that I didn't know while doing my best to keep up. Thankfully, I didn't need to know the lyrics if I was strumming along. Or the chords if I was singing. Until I finally leveled up. Level 2 Rocker Boy gave me a perk option, and as I had learned, perks were power. As always, there were a lot of interesting perks, including a perk that would improve my vocals. Siren Song went on the list, but I needed something else first, something to solve the biggest grinding issue that made the whole thing a chore rather than fun. And there was a perk that fit every criteria I needed. I had barely hesitated once I found it before choosing it as my level 2 perk. Perfect musical memory, any song you've heard once you'll remember. Including the chords needed to replay it and the lyrics. I had taken it thinking it would be useful going forward, maybe I could get away from using the radio as a crutch even. If I could just listen to a song and remember it enough to play it. But, as always, the perks were so much more powerful than that. The moment I had selected the perk in the middle of the night, I had nearly yelped at how my mind exploded as the memories flooded in. Rocker Boy 2 had given me a firm basis on chords and pace, as well as the muscle memory to play the guitar at a point where I was actually playing. Well, at least I wasn't acting like the kid in first-year music class anymore. But now? I had heard thousands of songs in my life, now in both lives. Memories from a previous life, coming in clutch. I took a moment to figure out what to play first, and decided on some childhood sounds, something that I hadn't heard since waking up in a coma. Yeah. The first strums of Nirvana's Come As You Are flooded my head. I even knew the lyrics perfectly, like I had spent years memorizing them. I strummed and sang along. For the first time in my life, actually really playing a song for myself. No, I don't have a gun. Memory. Memory, I belted out. And honestly, when I finished, the final note trailing off, I felt good. 100 Rockerboy XP gained. An instant alert. I guess the system had liked me actually getting everything right. Mostly. I had slipped on a few chords, and my vocals were still bad. I had enough knowledge to know I sounded flat, without knowing how to fix it. Stupid voice. But I could actually judge myself now. I knew just where I needed to improve, and a constant reminder my voice needed work. What was that? June's voice suddenly interrupted me, and I yelped, nearly falling off the couch. I had been so focused on the music in my ears and singing along that I hadn't heard him come out from his room. June. Stop being a ninja. That's my job, June? I asked, blinking a bit as I came out of the haze of making music. I popped the cord out of the bottom of the guitar, letting it settle back in my neck. That song. What was it? Never heard it before. I opened my mouth and closed it. How in the world was I supposed to explain that I knew a song that didn't exist? Nirvana didn't exist in this world. I guess America and its Seattle residents were a little too focused on the first Central American War that was happening during the time, for a grunge band to become popular. Or maybe they were drafted. I had no way of knowing. In fact, the only reason I even knew the war had been happening at the time was because I had looked up old bands on the internet a while back while wanting to listen to something from my time. Just a song I heard once. I think. I offered, deciding to just not admit to anything. You should have told me you were standing there. It's embarrassing. I could hear you from my room. You were singing pretty loud, Emuto. I blinked. I guess I had been a little too into it. It had just been so nostalgic. Sorry? I said, feeling my face flush a bit. I had been trying to keep my voice down, but I guess with the excitement of the perk I had forgotten. Don't be. It's okay. He said, but then to my embarrassment he didn't leave either. What? Nothing. I'm just standing here. He said, lips quirking into a smirk. Fine. If you want a song, I'll sing you one. Jerk. I grumble, but since I was already on a Nirvana kick. Smells like Teen Spirit. I mumbled, before starting. The power chords were a little annoying. But I realized instantly I wasn't getting the sound just right. I adjusted my fingers a few times, repeating the intro refrain until I got it. The chord finally came out right, and I started into the song. Rocker Boy 2 gave me a lot, but I could still make stupid mistakes. Load up on guns, bring your friends. I started belting out, a bit more clearly than the honey mumbles of Cobain, and not nearly as sweet. And I played the song. A few mistakes here and there, and without the drums and bass it wasn't as good, but I played through it. Another alert popped up as I finished. Huh. June mumbled a bit as he seemed to take me in for a few moments. Well? Don't just listen to the whole song and then hummy. It was interesting. You could use some more practice though. He told me, smirking. Jerk as older brothers. Then suddenly, he reached over and mussed my hair. Which, ow, stupid chrome hands. I'm proud of you, Motoko. Do this instead of merc work. It's safer. He said firmly, and I puffed some air to knock my bangs out of my eyes. Not a chance. I'll just do both. Rita said I should get a hobby that was more spiritual, instead of just death and murder, you know? So I guess music works. He nodded. A smart woman. Who's Rita? Oh, Rita works as a bouncer at Lizzie's. She's nice. She talked to me about being chipped forcefully, and offered some advice. I told him, and June frowned at my words. I guess it was still too soon for June to hear about the kidnapping. Be careful with the mocks. But I'm glad you had someone to talk to. Make sure you thank her next time you see her. He told me, and I snorted. Of course. I said, rolling my eyes, Like I wasn't going to thank Rita for her advice. June just chuckled at my reaction and then to my surprise started getting dressed up. You heading out? Got a gig, they are calling me in. Kamikaze work. You need a hand? I offered, eyes narrowing at the idea of June going out to fight so late at night. No, he said, shaking his head and passing me a smile. I just need to stand around and look scary. 6th Street are seeking a meeting to talk about ending hostilities with us. Of course, by US, June meant Tiger Claws. I nodded. It made sense. Everyone had started fighting with the NCPD out of the picture, even if the TC had been focused on the Maelstrom, and a little on the Mox, that didn't mean the other gangs didn't exist. Be safe. I will. Should pay well, maybe I'll grab some more subdermal. He mentioned, tapping his plastic stomach bit. If you do, go to Vic's. I know you haven't had that checkup yet. Moron. I called out loudly, so he couldn't ignore me. Yeah. He mumbled, but as he left, I nodded. I looked out the window and sighed. It was the middle of the night. The people I would need to talk to. Well, it would be best not to show up at 3 in the morning. So instead, I figured a bit more music wouldn't hurt. So I spent the rest of the night playing through songs, some of which had never existed in this world. But I continued playing long after I would have gotten tired. Long after a normal person would have become exhausted and needed a break. Long enough that Rocker Boy 2 became Rocker Boy 3. Then 4. My talent at music skyrocketed. I was no longer an amateur player. I was competent. I wasn't amazing. I still made mistakes. Flubs, missed chords, but I always knew when I made a mistake, it was no longer someone struggling just to try, it was a practiced hand. I liked it. Any song I wanted to hear, I could just start playing, or singing along. My voice sounded better too, like I had some training on how to professionally sing. I wasn't amazing, I wasn't sure if I would need a perk, or just increased skill overall before my voice sounded good, but I did sound better. I could at least hit the right notes with my voice now. I wasn't tone deaf. Humming to myself, I looked out the window, seeing the sun was high in the sky. It was time to stop. As much as my fingers tingled to keep working on this new grind. This was supposed to be something other than a grind to weaponize it, but using it as an excuse to waste some time? That was fine. But now it was back to work. So I set my guitar down, and instead, geared up. One of the things I had talked Saul into handing over to Even the Dead was information on Regina Jones. I still had a devil to kill after all. Regina Jones had an office in Watson. I just hadn't known where until now. Saul himself didn't have the information, but he did have a connection to the nomad fixer Dakota Smith, who did. Dakota had handed over the information, and Saul had handed it to me. Of course Saul owed Dakota something now, but that was just how business worked in the Badlands. So here I was. Yiba Tower. Which was annoying, because it was literally down the street from Lizzie's bar. I sighed as I walked up to the tower, not through the main entrance which had the bottom rooms all rented out and used by business or pleasure. No, there was a side elevator that went up directly to the top floors. The private floors. There at the very top, Regina Jones had her base. She owned the whole tower, apparently renting out floors to others. The elevator was actually in a small room that was pretty secure. A camera watched over the little room, and the elevator was secured, only someone with permission could use it. Which meant I needed to get it. I hit options on the little electronic pad next to the elevator until I found the call button for the top floor, and pushed it. Then I waited. A minute passed by before I got a response. Whatever it is, we aren't interested. The voice on the line was a man, so it wasn't Regina, which made this more difficult. I'm just here to speak to Ms. Jones about a gig. Listen, kid. I don't know you, so we aren't interested. The voice popped back on, and I was getting a little annoyed. At least hear me out first, you dickbag. I had already put off murdering that devil for long enough. I wasn't waiting any longer. No, you listen. I need to, you hung up. I noticed the talk notification was gone, fuckers. I considered what I should do here. One part of me said walk away, I could build up some reputation and then smash my skill over this jerkwad's head another time. But that was the reasonable part of me. The unreasonable part said I should infiltrate this building and find Regina Jones. I sighed, that would be extremely difficult if not impossible. I had no idea what her security was like, but I would put money she had a netrunner on retainer, so it wasn't like I could just hack in. Fine. Operation Be Fucking Annoying was a go. I went out to the alley, grabbed a piece of trash I could sit on, and carried it inside. Then I started hitting the call button. A lot. Fuck off. The response came through again, but I was ready for it. The last few times he had cursed me out, he had instantly hung up on me again. So I just kept pushing the button. Listen kid, if you don't fuck off, I'm gonna come down there and fucking end you. He was still talking this time. I need to speak to Regina. Regina doesn't chat with punk kids. You push that button again and I'm coming dude dash. So I pushed the button. Fuck this. He yelled and the call ended, but this time the elevator was coming down. This could be dangerous. I considered just staying where I was, but people in Night City were kinda trigger happy. I looked around looking for a good advantage, but when I finally realized the best place wasn't on the floor, I looked up. Yeah. That would work. Ian McKellen. Ian was not having a good day. Sure, he could just turn off the elevator alert, but Regina would murder him if someone important came by, and they couldn't be reached. He wasn't supposed to go down like this. Regina had told him before not to do it, but it was just one kid. The outer doors were locked. He had locked them from above, and the camera in the room meant he knew there was only one person inside. He would beat the kid a little bit, maybe a bullet hole or two, and then head back up. Only as the elevator reached the bottom, the kid wasn't there. The fuck? He crept out, his Lexington at the ready as he looked around. This was wrong. Regina was right, coming down like this was a mistake. He had that thought a moment too late. A second later something dropped on him from above and in a flurry of motion which he tried to resist, but it was just too much force dropping down on him from above, he lost his Lexington. Ripped out of his hands and was thrown to the ground as the fucking ninja pinned him to the ground. Had she just spun around his neck to smash him into the ground? He was dazed trying to resist when he felt his own gun press against his temple. He finally managed to realize what position he was in. His arms were pinned by a chromed-out arm and a pair of legs, while his own gun was about to take his life. Fuck. You say that a lot. She said completely calm. As if she hadn't just attacked and completely neutralized him. He wondered if he could get a quick hack out fast enough before she blew his brains over the entranceway. Listen buddy. I'm just here to talk to Regina about a gig. Let's call this whole unfortunate experience just a mistake and move on. Okay? She asked, the last bit offered with a wide smile and slight nudge of the gun up against his head. Why yeah. Just a mistake. Cool. Why don't you call your boss? Let her know she has a merc looking to meet up? Whenever it's convenient. I'm not looking to annoy her. She said, and Ian took that for the lie it was, considering she had just spent the last hour annoying the shit out of him. Fine. He pulled up his agent and found Regina's number. Regina was never going to let this go. Asterisk Ian. What is it? Where are you? Asterisk. Asterisk Hey Regina, downstairs, mind checking the cam? But basically I got knocked down by a fucking ninja. She's looking to talk to you. Wouldn't mind a bit of hurry, the gun against my temple is a little uncomfortable asterisk. Asterisk Ian you dumbass, I told you not to go down if there was anyone out there. People are looking to kill us, asterisk. Maybe talk to her soon so she won't? Suddenly Regina's voice came over the comm unit. Alright, you have one of my people at gunpoint. Not happy about it. Talk. Sorry. Hi, I'm Motoko Kusanagi, I'm a merc, although I usually work with Wakako. I'm here about a gig, or rather setting up a gig. It's a little complicated and definitely a sensitive topic. The ninja still held him down, acting as if Ian wasn't even there. Bitch. How about first you stop holding a gun against the head of my people? Sure, I mean he started it. She said as she suddenly untangled herself from him and stepped away. She even held out the gun for Ian to take back. Definitely a bitch. He took it anyway. So can we talk? Motoko the girl asked, and as Ian rose up, he realized just how short the girl was compared to him. She was a fucking teenager. He was never living this down. Listen kid dash. No wait, don't listen kid me. That's such bullshit. You definitely haven't heard of me, I get it. But I'm a merc, and I'm good at what I do. So I'm here. It has to do with the devil of Kabuki. She said, and Ian stilled. Jotaro. That fucking monster. Can I come up so we can talk about this? I'm not sure this is the most secure, the girl started talking, but Regina cut her off. Sounding much more serious about this whole interaction. What about him? I want to kill him. The teenager said with a calm surety, and Ian knew this day was going to go bad. A kid with too much balls and not enough brains to realize the danger of Jotaro Shobo. Especially since she was a pretty enough girl. You? Sure. I'm good at assassinations. It's sorta my thing. Jotaro's a piece of shit. But he decided to be a fucking gonk and threaten me and my chums. So he has to die. I figured some fixer somewhere would have a gig to kill him, she said, and Regina was quiet for a minute as if processing what the girl was saying. A few of us probably do, but it's not as easy as you say. Jotaro keeps a low profile, he isn't easy to track down. He spends a lot of time at his club, the Ho-Oh Club actually. The top floor is his residence. And his BD studio. The girl said, dropping some very valuable knowledge out of the blue. And also her voice went so cold there at the end despite the fact Ian was gripping his gun, he was feeling uncomfortable. A momentary knowledge that the crazy ninja girl that had just taken him down in a second wasn't just some teenager. The girl was dangerous. It struck him then, she could very likely be some crazy edge runner that just liked to look like a teen. It wouldn't be the weirdest thing he had ever seen. A reminder to not underestimate someone ran through his head as he inched away from her. You can do it? Regina questioned her, digging a little. Can I kill him? Yes. Can I do it without anyone knowing? Yeah, probably. That's my goal on this one. My brother is a member of the TC, so I kinda need this to be a below-the-table sort of thing. Hence why Wakako doesn't want to touch it. And why I'm here. I see. Regina went quiet. Alright kid. I do have an offer to kill him that's been gaining dust. You take him out. I'll consider the gig closed, and I'll take care of the details. Deal. Chapter 54. I left Regina after a few minutes of back and forth about the gig. I finally had her number as well. So there. I was officially a better than average merc with 2 fixers hiring me. But I refocused because it was time. I drove the car over to Lizzie's, parking in the lot and heading to the front. Thankfully Rita was there and I waved her down. Hey Rita. Can we talk for a minute? She blinked but nodded without any preamble. Bet, take over for me. She called out to one of the other bouncers as she waved me in. She took me to the admin room right off the entrance, the same one that Knox had been brought to when he was beat up. What's up, Motoko? You okay? Actually, yeah, I took what you said and I know sorry, but that's not what I needed. So I'm gonna be honest. You ever heard of a piece of shit called Jotaro Shobo? The devil of Kabuki? Rita's plastic face went from kind and understanding to murderous in an instant. Yeah. She growled a bit. Is he threatening you? Do dash. Not exactly. Well, I mean he did. But when he realized I worked with the kamikaze a bit. He backed off. I winced a bit and Rita's obvious discomfort at my reveal. I'm not actually a member though. I just worked with them because my brother Jun is in the kamikaze. He joined to kill Maelstrom, they killed his chum. I'm just looking out for him to make sure he doesn't go psycho. And I'm rambling. I quickly threw my hands up to try and move on from that topic. Rita. I just took a gig to murder Jotaro. I know where he is, and I don't need help. I quickly filled her in. But having an alibi for where I was while it happens would be extremely useful. I'm gonna take him out tonight, so do you mind if I stick around, make sure everyone sees me here, and help make sure no one notices me leaving for an hour or so later tonight? Rita looked at me a little dumbstruck. Motoko, the devil, isn't someone you can just. He's just a guy, Rita, and I know where he is. He hides in his club all day every day, from what I can gather. Trying to lay low, it's why so few people know where he is. I'll go in and out, no one will even know I was there if I do my job right. I just need an extra alibi, just in case. My brother is Tiger Claw, and if they catch on that I killed Jotaro, they might cause some problems. I was breathing in ready to get another big breath when Rita's hands grabbed my shoulders. I don't like the idea of you going after that monster alone. But of course we'll help you. The Mox have a particular bone to pick with that monster. Great. So I just need to be seen hanging around for a few hours until dark. I know the perfect thing. She said, suddenly smiling, and I suddenly wasn't. I have a bad feeling about this. Welcome to Lizzie's. Don't touch anyone. If you like the looks of a girl, please check our catalog. I repeated for the umpteenth time. Yeah. Rita had, with an amused smile, actually convinced me the best way to make sure everyone knew where I was. Work the front desk. It wasn't really hard. I mean, greeting people, walking them through the catalog if they were somehow tech illiterate. Boom. Job done. I didn't even have to deal with the Eddies, another girl, Mara, did that. You know, as much as I hated the whole retail job, working the front desk of basically a strip club was actually pretty interesting. The Mox put up with zero shit, and everyone coming in knew it. If you were the type to get drunk or back talk, Rita threw them out on the street. If they were drunk, Rita threw them out on the street. Rita handled many a problem at Lizzie's. But it meant everyone was very polite until they got into the back and started scrolling their BDs, and then it wasn't like they were interacting or bothering anyone. Here, Motoko. I finally found it. Mara called out. She had been going into the back of the little reception area over and over to find something. I glanced over and instantly burst into laughter. Mara, I am not wearing that. Ah, come on, it's a Mox jacket, and it'll fit. Mara, it says fuck to live, kill to fuck. Yeah. The Mox words. Denied. I answered, crossing my arms in an X in front of me. Ah. The girl was a bit of a weird one, nice. But weird. I almost wanted to ask if she had some mental issues. The way she talked had a really slow pace to it, and it seemed to take her a while to do some tasks. But she was a sweetheart, so I wasn't going to make a fuss. Are you sure? It would look good on you. I looked over at the blue jacket that had a fuzzy collar and the Mox words on the back. I'm good, Mara, honest. I like my current jacket. It makes me feel cool. I whisper the last bit to her, earning some giggles before she stops and sort of blinks her big brown eyes. What's cool? My offensive course was swallowed down. It means it makes me feel preem. Ah, okay. You should just say that. She said, nodding a bit at her own words. Rita walked in, then caught my eye, nodding towards the back. Perfect, it was time. We walked into the back and then up the stairs to the roof. The roof that was currently cleared out. A favor from Rita. You sure about this, Motoko? I'm more than willing to come with, back you up. We can get others as well. Rita offered, looking serious. No. It'll be easier on my own. No one will even know I was there. I told her with a smile as I grabbed the backpack Rita had helped me prepare for this. I had told Regina and Rita that I wasn't planning on being spotted, but if I was, then I definitely couldn't go as Motoko. So Rita had helped out, along with some of the clothes I had picked up over my jobs. The raff and dust mask went over my face. Rita gave me a wig that was long and red. Along with a few spare clothes the Mox had left lying around from patrons forgetting things in the back rooms. I had a full outfit that no one would ever attribute to me. Now I just had to hope that with that, and my karoshi, I would truly be a ghost on this gig. Good luck. See you soon, Rita. I said as I started climbing. Rita hadn't known exactly why I had asked to use the rooftop. But she was about to get a front row seat. Up I went, climbing old AC units and power boxes until I clambered up onto the edge of the fence around the roof. Then I grabbed onto the highway overpass that ran right over Lizzie's bar. Climbing up the concrete outer edge was child's play. It had plenty of power lines and pipes running along the outside. After all, it wasn't like anyone would normally get this high. But I did. Easily climbing up onto the pipes and started walking. I was 2 or 3 stories up at least, the wind was strong, and no one ever saw me, except for Rita, who I left far below. I quickly reached the place where I could drop down onto the Bellevue Overwalk. The pedestrian infrastructure looked like it had once been part of a park or something. Now it was just full of bums and people hiding out. Dropping a dozen feet, I landed in a quiet crouch in a corner of the Overwalk out of sight. As always, falling like that was a rush. The sense of surety that I could do it, that I would be safe, that I would be quiet. I loved it. I crossed the Overwalk, no one saw me. The few bums that were hanging around, or couples enjoying some quiet moments, never even noticing my bright red hair. I landed first on some roofs, and then crossed to a massive pipe that crossed the whole area. The pipe would lead me directly where I needed to go. As much as the entire area of Kabuki was a maze, from the rooftops it was child's play to reach where I needed to go. A few tiger claws hanging out on the roofs halfway to my destination were bypassed without a sound. I could have killed them. If I had been on any other gig, I might have. But honestly, I felt kinda bad killing the tiger claws. I was one of them, in a way. As much as I denied affiliation, my family was one of them. If I had to turn to a gang for help, they would be the first I sought out. The fact was, in Night City, everyone had a gang affiliation of some sort. Even if it was just to be left alone. But it didn't matter. Because here I was, standing on the roof of the Ho-Oh Club. No one the wiser, completely bypassing all the defenses and protections the hidden club would normally give. There was no one around. The rooftop was tucked away and quiet. No cameras. No hidden sensors. Nothing. I walked around from the north, letting me see right into the room that I knew was Jotaro's bedroom. He wasn't there. So I waited. I went very still in the shadows, letting me see into his room, but I knew he wouldn't see me, unless he spent the time to really look. It was so easy to let cool take over. Slow my heart and breathing, until I was practically a statue. Until every minute passed in a flash, because I was simply waiting. Then he appeared, suddenly slamming open the door. He was pissed. Angry. Good. He snatched a pack of cigarettes out of his pocket as he grabbed one with his teeth and chucked the pack onto a side table near his bed. Then he was their head practically out the window as he smoked. Long trails of the gray smoke arching up, twirling before disappearing into nothing. I waited. He was angry. Not paying attention to anything outside the window. He was a man lost in his own thoughts. I shifted, just a tiny amount, as I moved out from the shadows, crossing the roof above him without a sound. He didn't see me. I walked along the edge of the roof until I was directly above him. He didn't hear me. I drew a knife, not my usual blade, but it would do. I fell. Right outside his window was a row of AC units. With them, and the concrete windowsill, I landed without any fear of something breaking and making noise. He didn't speak. A knife stuck in your throat tended to silence the screams. I held him. One arm around the back of his head, holding his body towards me so he couldn't fall away from me. Our eyes met. Even if mine were hidden behind the dust mask. I wondered if he could see the crimson of my irises. I wondered if he would remember. The look in these same eyes when he threatened me made me realize what a monster he was. So I held him. As his body slowly crumpled. 750 XP gained. Ninjutsu skill level up. Huh. Hadn't seen an upgrade in that in a while. Level 8 ninjutsu. I shook my head away from the dump of very detailed, almost situational pieces of the skill. I wasn't done. Regina didn't just want him gone. She wanted a message to be sent to the tiger claws. She had a few ideas of ways to make his death messy enough. I had vetoed most of them, but had agreed to do the job with a knife she had supplied. Apparently, it would have meaning to the TC. The other was to make sure it couldn't be hidden away. It was unfortunate I wasn't about to record this as a BD. I would have loved to spread around the sight of his eyes going dim as he bled out to the families of the many people this man tortured to death. But this would have to do. I left the knife in his throat, and then grabbed him around the collar of his stupid white suit. It wasn't white anymore. Then I hip-checked the body over the edge of the window. Once that was done, the loud splat of a falling body echoing around, I was moving, climbing back up onto the roof thanks to the many easy-to-find handholds, and I was gone. Back across the rooftops, no one saw me even if the commotion started growing louder behind me. Rita was waiting for me on the roof. From the way she was fidgeting and pacing, I would have expected to see her chain smoking through a pack. But she wasn't smoking. Just pacing like a caged lion. I landed onto the roof without more than a scuffed noise against the roof. "Hey Rita." I called out gently, making sure I was far enough away not to startle her. "Wha?" "Motoko. You're back." I nodded, glad for once I was able to approach someone without scaring the fuck out of them. I started peeling off the borrowed clothes, letting Rita take them and put them into a plastic bag that would be burned just to ensure there were no traces. With that I dressed back in my own clothes, and only when Rita checked me over for any blood stains did she give me the okay. We headed back down, the bag was given to another Mox to burn, and I was back out at the front desk for another few hours. Alibi complete. Gig done. Chapter 55. A few hours later I drove home. June wasn't at the apartment when I got there, which let me flop onto the couch uncaring of the loud sigh I gave off. Gig complete. I had done it. Killed at least 2 of the monsters that I remembered from the game. There were others, I was sure. But these 2 were what I remembered. Killing them was enough to at least lighten my conscience. Would killing them make Night City just a little bit better of a place? I think it would. I reached over and grabbed the guitar. I didn't know what to play. The ideas flowed through me. I could play something famous or popular, but I was a total nerd. I listened more to anime OSTs than radio pop. So I just strummed a few times before the idea formed. I couldn't do it all, I didn't have the electronic sounds needed for it, but I could play the guitar, and I was feeling in a pretty dark metal mood, having just murdered a man in cold blood. As I started the first riff, I was thankful there were no lyrics to this song, just sound from my guitar. But I had to say something anyway, something that simply fit too much. The only thing they fear is me. I growled, my face turning into a smile as I lost myself in the music for a while. Playing through a few songs from the Doom soundtrack that I liked, at least what I could do with just a guitar. I would need a lot of extra equipment if I wanted to recreate the song in truth. Which is why right in the middle of BFG division, I realized I was a fucking genius. I'm a tinker and a net runner. Why the hell can't I make the noise I want? I put the guitar to the side and went to grab my laptop. Engineer it first, then tinker it into being. Huh. See Rita, I was a perfectly sane and normal girl. Capable of normal sane girl things. But first I needed to focus. I needed this to properly shred. How would they know that they should fear me if I didn't have an awesome theme song? Honestly, it was really easy. Using my CAD software, I was able to build up the little box from bottom up. When I finished the blueprints of my music box, I realized that while I could handle the outside of the system just fine, I had no idea how to properly program it. It was the same problem I had with my directional mic. I could finish the hardware and get it running, but programming it to do more? I had no idea. Even with my net running. Right now, my ability was only at the level of script kiddie stuff. I could use programs already made, I was even good at it. But programming? No idea. With a very important part of my future music box unfinished, I started hammering my head at the wall. The CAD software was of course capable of accepting some programming to test it out, but as I went through it, I very quickly got nowhere. I found myself wasting time, going in mental circles. So I needed to program this thing. I realized I had a blank in my net running understanding. I was pretty sure I was fairly competent, with intelligence and breach at 6, even if my quick hack skill was lagging behind. This system is deeper than I thought. I admitted, realizing that I was definitely missing a skill. If Rocker Boy was a skill under Cool, and driving existed, then obviously there were more skills in my system than there were in the game. I just had to figure out how to start a new one. I couldn't help but sigh when I realized I had another skill to grind. No matter how much time I spent grinding away, there always seemed to be more. Which was both good and bad, as I liked grinding, but I didn't want to admit that I liked it. I wanted to be irritated. Fortunately, I had an idea of how to get started. I went into my room and pulled out my mother's net running guide. I popped in the shard and started browsing through it swiftly, until finally I found it. A small section she went over personalizing quick hacks. It wasn't much. It wasn't long. She prefaced it with 99% of you will never bother with this. But it was there. So I sat and followed the steps of my biological mother in altering just a tiny bit of the code of my ping quick hack. It was the basic of basics program already. My ping wasn't special, or anything. If I put it in game terms, my ping was the white common rarity. But as I pulled it apart, I was able to make a minor change that I followed along as my mother guided me. And finally something I had done was enough. Programming experience gained. Skill not unlocked, no XP gained. Programming unlocked. Well, that was level 0. Let's see what I could get a level before June got home. Turns out that unlike Rocker Boy, programming was fucking hard. I had ended up making a copy of my ping quick hack. And basically tearing it apart over and over again, trying to find ways to make it slightly better. Most of the time I ended up spiraling the program into utter uselessness. But the times I succeeded at least on not ruining the program, I got that alert telling me I was one step closer to understanding. Finally, hours after I started and with a few clumps less hair on my head, I altered the ping so it would visually show a different color connection in my optics, and the alert popped. 100 programming XP gained. Programming skill level up. And my eyes were opened. Breaching. Quick hacks? They were a tiny minuscule sliver of the net. Breaching was like learning how to move in the net. How to bypass system security, or even just port access through different servers. It was what you needed to live in the net. Quick hacks was bringing the power of the net to the real world. But programming? Programming was magic. There was nothing in the net you couldn't do with the proper application of programming. It was also incredibly difficult, easily the most complex of the 3 skills, and the one that the least amount of people used. Real netrunners didn't have high breach or quick hack skills. They had high programming. The difference between a common ping quick hack and a legendary one was a layer of magnitude in complexity. If someone who could use quick hacks was a knight, the programmer was the smith. The weapon designer. A lone netrunner could find weapons and use them. A lone programmer? Could create an army. I suddenly realized that programming might very well be the most powerful skill I accessed. If I designed a legendary quick hack. Or in the real world's terms. A quick hack of insane complexity and power, I could sell it, or trade it for favors, for eddies, for power. It was in a lot of ways making a magic weapon in a mundane world. So cool. I giggled and kicked my legs as I rolled around on the couch. So I had the basics of another powerful tool. Now I just needed to spend the hours upon hours to grind it out. Since all I really had was ping, that was my go-to playground. I knew it could be improved after all. If I could practice with it enough, I could figure out how, and improve one of my only net running tools. Fuck, I really needed to upgrade my deck. I reached behind my head and touched the back of my head where it was installed. The little port hidden in my skull. Was I ready for it? I wasn't sure. It made me kind of nervous. I was still working my way through my arms, trying to adapt to them, make them mine, and I still felt the effects of chipping them at times. The harsh reminder, always there niggling at me, and yet, I didn't want that spider ripper to win. To scare me away. I wasn't afraid of chipping chrome. I liked the idea. I always had. Just in moderation and not adding in something stupid to myself. But still. There was that itch in my shoulders at the thought. That, and the fear that slid down my spine. I knew how close I had come to losing it. I didn't dwell on it really. It was too easy to just ignore it. But before I had put the points into adaptation, I had truly been on my way to losing myself in revenge. I hadn't liked the person I had been becoming, which was part of the reason I hadn't been hunting the maelstrom spider ripper down afterwards. I didn't want to admit to myself how out of control I had been thanks to the constant pain and trauma. I sighed, flopping onto the couch for a bit. Why was life so complicated? I just wanted to have fun and do cool shit. But life was more complicated than that, and a cyberpunk life more complicated still. I would talk to Vic. I did still owe him a night where he would check on my healing. He had been nice enough to only say I was due for a checkup rather than the truth in his texts that I got every few days. Stupid Dad Vic, making me feel bad for not seeing him. I was just so busy. I looked around at the multiple projects that surrounded me and sighed. At least I had a few days before I would see Regina about payment for killing Jotaro. She was going to send me a text in a few days to fake an initial meetup. I guess I would be able to start taking gigs from 2 fixers after that. It was a step up. In a good direction even. Maybe it was time to do some upgrades. I pulled up my phone system. Ringing. Ringing. Asterisk Motoko? What is it? You okay? June's voice picked up quickly, sounding concerned. Asterisk I'm okay, June. I just had a thought. I'm thinking I might get a new net deck. Should I? Is that okay? Is it too much too fast? I'm still recovering from my arms and I just dash asterisk. Asterisk whoa, slow down. Hey. It's okay, just breathe. Do I think you getting a new net deck is okay? Yeah, I think it would be good for you. You've been practicing a lot, and it's not like you really have enough chrome anyways. I would feel safer if you had an upgrade. Are you really still worried about your arms? Asterisk June. I was literally going crazy after. All I could think about was killing the maelstrom. I wasn't me. I'm still not feeling 100%. Of course I'm worried. It's like you. You were one step into some form of cyberpsychosis when you rescued me. Asterisk. I wasn't, he denied instantly, and I had to breathe to not say something instantly, and end up snapping at June. Asterisk you kinda were, June. You're better now though. But I was really worried. Asterisk talk. Talk to your Ripper. He was a good guy. He'll make sure you're ready for new chrome before giving it to you. I guess I don't know when enough is enough. Asterisk June? Asterisk I haven't thought about how it must have looked. Know how it was. I was stupid. I'm sorry. I must have scared you. Asterisk you did, but I wasn't scared of you, June. I was scared for you. Asterisk I see, he said in a voice that told me he very much didn't see. Asterisk alright. I'll talk to Vic. I owe him a checkup anyways. Asterisk what? Go get your checkup, you gonk. If your Ripper says you need to be checked out, then get moving. Asterisk he yelled into the line at me, making me jump. Asterisk alright. I'm going. Yeesh. Asterisk I grumbled as I ended the call and rose up. I guess I was visiting Vic. Misty. I called out as I entered the esoterica, and the fluffy-haired blonde looked up from her digital magazine. Motoko. How are you? She asked as she rose up and actually pulled me into a hug for a moment. Vic is in, are you hurt? No, and it's not a rush. What are you doing, anything fun? I asked as she perked up at me asking about her. I guess I had been a little rude just passing through to Vic. Misty was good people after all. Reading about Buddhism at the moment. Come sit with me, she called, pulling me over to the 2 chairs she had set up where she plopped me down. How have you been? She asked instantly, and I smiled at her genuine interest. I've been okay. I had a talk with someone that. Well, she'd been forcefully chipped chrome as well. Rita's preem. Anyway, she talked with me, and reminded me to actually do something for my spiritual needs that didn't just lead to violence. I started playing music. I bought a guitar. That's great, Motoko. Music an amazing spiritual relief. You should play something. I didn't bring my guitar, and I don't think I'm ready for that. It's embarrassing. Only June has heard me play so far. I'm still making mistakes and it's kinda dash. It sounds like you are having fun, no need to stress out about it. She said, gently reaching out and taking my hand to stop me from rambling a bit. Thanks, Misty. It was all I could offer, and we both smiled a bit as we settled into chat. I mostly listened as Misty discussed her interest in esoterica and spiritualism. It was fun, soothing, and had nothing to do with the crazy night city stuff. So I spent a good hour just listening to her talk, and before I realized it she had even tricked me into a meditative stay with her lighting incense and walking me through my breathing. I pretty much knew all of it thanks to cool and ninjutsu, but it was kinda nice to do it outside of controlling myself for combat. Hey Vic. I called out after Misty finally let me go from her constant desire to worry about my spiritual and mental health. She was fun. Motoko. Glad to see you, kid, you've been dodging me. Not purposefully. I've just been kinda busy. Sorry, that's not really a good excuse. I offered in the end, actually pretty contrite. Vic was just trying to look out for me. You aren't the first of my patients that are hard to get in for a checkup. Come on, take a seat, I want to check on your arms, and you can tell me what finally brought you by. You are way too sharp, Vic. I mumble as I did as I was ordered and let Vic start checking out my shoulders and arms. Even popping open a hatch on the arms to diagnose them. So what brings you in, kid? I've been thinking about an upgrade. Upgrades? I'm just not sure I'm ready. I admit, quietly feeling a little uncomfortable mentioning it to Vic. I want a new cyberdeck. But my arms messed me up pretty bad. I'm not sure I'm really ready for them. Even if I really do need an upgrade. I see. Vic murmured soothingly as he spent another moment staring at my screen. Motoko, it's very rare I get a customer that actually worries about too much chrome, even with all my warnings. I would definitely be worried about you for most things. If you wanted to get something big, I would do my best to stop you. You aren't ready for that. He said, and I couldn't help but exhale as a tension left me. Vic had said it. I wasn't ready. So I could stop thinking about it. I didn't have to keep wondering if I was being stupid for not chroming up even a little more. I wasn't David-level stupid, but there were times I wish I had some subdermal armor, or maybe optical camo. But I could just let that go for now. I wasn't ready. Doc Vic said so. But changing out a deck isn't difficult. I've never seen anyone have any issues from a simple swap. Do you have a deck in mind? I had to open my mouth and then close it and then answer with a bit of a blush. Not really. Heh. Well, kid, you're at the right place, let me pull up some options for you. I don't have much, especially anything that would interest you, but I can see if I can find something, or at least send you to another ripper that I know will. Cool. Thanks, Vic. Anytime, kid. Now about that sleep study. He said with a grin, and I couldn't help but laugh as he was teasing me more than anything. But it was a thing I needed to do. Fine. How about now? I would rather get it done now than keep putting it off. Well, that I can do. He said with a smile as he started pulling down different pieces of tech around the ripper chair. Interestingly enough, I was able to recognize most of it. That one was a X-ray machine, or more accurately a modern MRI machine. That one was a metabolic scanner, that one a mechanical sensor. It would keep an eye on my chrome and tell Vic if they did anything weird. Cool. After that we settled in and Vic went through a catalog of options for a net deck. It was pretty comprehensive. Every net deck Vic had probably ever come across was on the list. As we searched through it, the problem was cost to benefit. Of course I wanted a Tetratronic Rippler. But that was an ultra-rare and pricey piece of chrome. So I set my price range. Even if I couldn't afford it right now, Regina would be paying me a pretty penny for Jotaro and I could afford it then. Eventually, I picked one that had Vic laughing at me. Planning on breaking and entering, are we? He eventually asked as I pouted at him. I'm an infiltration specialist. I whined but then pouted because I had to add in. And I do break and enter a bit more than I think is right. I blame Wakako. I added because the Seicho Electronics MK 2 Cyberdeck was a good deck. Plenty of RAM. For times what I had with my current Paraline. More buffer, which means I could breach into better systems, and more program slots, for quick hacks. But the real reason is because it had the honor of being the most commonly used cyberdeck for break-ins. It was built for stealth hacks, and even had an overclocked CPU so it could scan, connect, and upload a quick hack much faster than its competitors. Its 10 grand price tag hurt, but I would have enough that the cost wouldn't hurt once Regina came through. Alright kid. I know a guy that should have one, I'll put in some calls. Perfect. Then I'll take a nap. Ready? 1 SEC, I want to make sure I get this instant sleep function of yours. You don't have any cyberware that should allow it, so I want to see what happens. Sure Vic, oh actually I should do this too. I mentioned whipping out my knife and giving myself a cut on my hip where my leotard and pants failed to quite match up. Motoko. Don't do. Jesus kid, you're gonna give me a heart attack. Hold on. He muttered, grabbing some supplies, and then to my amusement disinfected the cut and even put a loose bandage on it. I'll keep an eye on it during the day, but really kid, you shouldn't hurt yourself like that. Alright, sit back, scan is ready. Night night. I laughed at him as I set my sleep for 8 hours and I was out. I blinked awake. Everything was slightly different. Vic wasn't standing over me, but instead across the room. And as always I was crystal clear and awake. Hey Vic. I called out, getting his attention as he looked away from the boxing match he was focused on. Hey kid. How'd you sleep? He asked, rolling back over and fussing over me as he started moving the scanners and things from around me, letting me sit up. Fine, good as always. What's the verdict? I have no idea. I can tell you that it took me a while to narrow down something. You got some nanomachines in you. Not unusual, we all do at this point, but yours were elusive, couldn't get a scan, couldn't collect one. They would disappear the moment I tried. I can tell you that you're healthy as an ox, and I don't see any issues popping up. Whoever designed them? They are out of my league. It's a shame. Could help a lot of people if we could figure out how to make them. I nodded along as Vic spoke. I expected most of that. It was a shame in some ways that he couldn't figure out the sleep healing, but I also felt relieved. The idea of other people becoming gamers in Night City? That was an apocalypse waiting to happen. Sorry Vic. I know you were kinda hoping. It's fine kid. I got lots of scans while you were sleeping, and at least the cut is gone. Yeah, I slept for 8 hours. But kid, I've been checking on that cut every 20 minutes. It was still there not long ago. He grumbled as he started checking his stuff, spinning knobs, and putting a VR-style interface over his eyes. Looks like about 5 minutes before you woke up, suddenly all the nanomachines I had been tracking around the wound nearly instantly repaired the damage. Incredible. I have no idea how they did that. Yeah, I have to wait 8 hours, and then I heal. If I don't sleep that long, I don't get any healing. That doesn't make a damn lick of sense. He grumbled but nodded as he took off the headset. Well, with this, I'll be busy for the next while. Maybe I can get something out of these scans. Even if your nanomachines don't like to be recorded. Thanks, Vic. Just make sure you keep this quiet, okay? I trust you, but really, I don't want to end up on some core experiment lab because of it. Instead of taking my joking request for a laugh, he went very serious and nodded, reaching out and putting a hand on my shoulder. I promise, kid. This stuff'll be on my private server, no one will know about it. That's all I can ask, Vic. I said, fully trusting the older man. Did you happen to find a seller? Oh, for your deck? Yeah, I called around a bit. Found a ripper that has one. I'll send you the details. Go on, kid. I can practically see how antsy you are to get out of that chair. Feel free to bring the deck around when you want it installed. He said without actually saying he didn't trust the ripper to do it right. I grinned as I hopped off the chair and did indeed rush out of there. The 8 hours may have passed in a flash, but it was still time I wanted to do stuff with. I had grinding to do. Playing music to do. I whistled a Foo Fighters song on my way upstairs. Time to get back to work. Chapter 56. I was back home setting up for some programming grinding, since I still wanted to make my music box, when I got an incoming call from June. Hey Juni. What's up? Finally, I called you a few times this afternoon, where were you? I blushed a little when I noticed that I had alerts for missed calls. Okay Motoko, you fucking boomer. You really need to remember to check your phone more often. I yelled at myself before answering June. I was with Vic, doing a sleep thing. He was giving me a checkup, but wanted me to stay for a bit, so I took a nap. Sorry Juni. You okay? Need my help? I'm fine Motoko, just checking in on you. You weren't home when I stopped by. Listen, I have a feeling you already know, but Jotaro Shobo is dead. Wa no way? Really? Oh man, that's terrible. I fake gasped to get a laugh, but June wasn't laughing. As far as anyone is concerned, Jotaro was killed by the family of someone he. It doesn't matter. But that's what everyone is saying. Keep it that way. Motoko, if you ever listen to me, then listen to me now. Never talk about Jotaro again. June was seriously worried. I frowned, looking at my programming for a minute, just to have something real to focus on. I promise, June. It's done. No point talking about it. Good. Good. You know you can talk to me about stuff like this. I can protect you from anything Imuto, you just have to trust me enough to tell me. I do trust you June. And you can trust me to protect you too. So if you ever need a hand I will call this scary sniper I know, yeah, he said, and I had to giggle at that. Sniping was like the least of my talents though. I wasn't even that good at it. I was just sneaky. I have to go Motoko. I'll be back in the morning, and we'll talk more then. Just keep your head down for a bit. Sure. The call clicked as it ended and I was left to refocus on my work. So the TC didn't suspect me, or at least the common members didn't. Good. Hopefully it will stay that way. I put my hands back on the keyboard and started typing. I had a skill to level up. I was still only working on ping as I had no other quick hack programs to mess with, and I didn't feel confident enough in trying to create a program from scratch yet, when I got my second ding. Programming skill level up. 1 perk point gained. Yes. I called out, thrilled at the sudden burst of knowledge with programming too. Yeah, I was definitely feeling a lot better about my programming, plus the perk meant I would have a serious advantage. Instantly, I dug through the perk list. This perk would be supremely important to my future, because programming was going to be a serious advantage in the future. So I explored the options entirely. A few instantly popped to the forefront. Inspired programmer, inspiration strikes constantly. Never run out of steam while programming. It seemed kind of innocuous, but also secretly really powerful. Sure, my system gave me knowledge, and I didn't tend to get bored with whatever task I was doing, but constant inspiration would mean my programs come out better, come out faster. But it wasn't the only one that caught my eye. Debug. At a single glance, you will know what is causing your program not to work, or where the program can be improved. Another extremely powerful sounding perk. It's one thing to know programming, and it's another to have confidence in being able to make it work. To figure out what was wrong. The list went on, but I needed to decide. At programming too, I was still so new to the skill that a perk would make massive changes. Did I want to make sure my programming worked? Or did I want to keep pumping out programs to level up? It was two sides of the coin. But I had to make a decision, and so I did. Debug. I decided to make sure what I was working with could work. It might not be the best, but the skill itself did give me knowledge on how to make the programs anyway. But making sure whatever I was working on would actually function would hopefully give me more XP in the long run than just pumping out programming that was a mess. Instantly, I felt like I was some ancient programmer that debugged irritating students for a living. But I knew. I pulled out my ping quick hacks details on the laptop again, and instantly, I could see the absolute college programmer tier problems with it. Made sense. The program was bottom of the barrel sludgeware. I could fix it though. At least somewhat. That sense of knowing has always felt great, filled me with a sense of purpose. My hands tore across the keyboard, removing bloat, fixing leaks. Solving a problem that made the thing last half as long as it should in systems that aren't resisting. And to my delight, each problem solved was a bit of XP. With that, the XP started racing in, as I was making honest real improvements to ping. When I was done, I wouldn't say it was quite at the level of an upgrade to its rarity in game terms, but I think I had actually reduced the RAM a cyberdeck would need to run the program. Which was impressive enough, since the program was already fairly light. But I kept working on it. Tearing it apart piece by piece, line by line. And a program, even one as simple as ping, wasn't a small piece of code. The amount of systems it had to interface with, both external and internal, as it had to use whatever optics you had installed to display the information it had gained. The thing was overly complicated, which made me realize I could completely do away with most of it. I tore apart huge swaths of the code, reducing it so it would only work and display on my particular optics. Since it didn't have to query or check for any other internal systems, the program slimmed right down, practically reducing the actual program slot usage to almost nothing. I realized that it was completely possible for ping, since it was much smaller than the juggernauts of the quick hack world, to be reduced to a completely negligible size on my cyberdeck. I might actually be able to reduce it so much that it wouldn't even use up the cyberdeck slot count. To always have ping installed, ready, and able? That would be supremely useful, and give me more utility. I couldn't help but laugh as I stepped away late in the afternoon to get a meal from the street vendors. I was right, programming was truly a weapon that I had to utilize. I decided to step away from the apartment for a bit while I ate. I still had my Beria and Lexington on me, so I decided to walk around the block. Like I had done back when I was still grinding out my body. It was nice to go back to something so simple. It reminded me that I needed to keep choosing to live my life how I wanted, and not be subconsciously afraid of maelstrom Borgs around every corner. I stuck the final bit of meat on a stick into my mouth, tossed the skewer into the trash, and decided to move around a bit. Instead of heading straight home, I went for a jog. First up further into Japantown, taking the stairs up to the surface, near Cherry Blossom Market. Then just around the shops, along the strip malls, trailing the roads. Honestly, I just had that urge to move. I had spent days grinding or planning murder, and only did a little bit of time outside while actually committing the murder. I just wanted to be free of it all for a bit. I walked through crowds, amused at how many of them were armed. And how easy it would be to kill almost all of them. It was amazing what just having a bit of skill and experience will do to someone. Sure, everyone had a gun, but most of them would die before ever getting to use it in an emergency. I shook that thought away. I had a benefit that no one else did, and there were still people better than me. I shouldn't get arrogant. The fact was, I was only special because of a random blip of chance. 1 in a trillion. I didn't know if there was a god in this world. I mean, chances were there actually was magic, considering the cyberpunk references in The Witcher. But I wasn't sure what great deity I should thank for my circumstances, so instead of picking one, I just looked up into the sky for a moment, and sent a silent thank you into the air. Because the fact was, I loved this life. With all the horrors and disgusting elements. Even without puppies. Because I had power. And power gave me autonomy. I could choose what I wanted to do. Where I wanted to go. In my last life, I didn't have that. Stuck in the same routine to survive. Now, if I ran low on eddies, I could find a fixer and in a single afternoon make thousands of eddies, while also making myself stronger. The dopamine rush of improving yourself, and knowing you are getting better, mixed with the freedom to do as I liked. Yeah, I loved this crapsack world. I blinked as a drop of water landed on my nose. The sky had been cloudy all morning, and suddenly it started raining. I looked around. Noticing, some people grabbed umbrellas out of bags and continued on with their day. Some ignored the water, throwing hoods over their heads, or just walking through it without a care. Either too drugged, too chromed, or too indifferent to care. Others hurried under overhangs, or moved out of the open to get out of the water. And there I stood, letting the rain come down and soak my hair as I watched the people all around me. The water darkening the California sun, the people hurrying around, neon shining off wet umbrellas and coats. It might be a cyberpunk dystopia. But it's my cyberpunk dystopia. I continued walking through the streets, just enjoying the ambience of a rainy cyberpunk city. I would think about grinding more, killing more, and living more in a few hours. For now I was just enjoying the backdrop. The next day, I got a call from Regina to meet. I suited up, making sure I had some max stocks in my pockets just to be safe, and headed out. It wasn't that I didn't trust Regina. It was just that I didn't trust Regina. Or rather, I was cautious. I had sort of forced the gig on her, and I hadn't been nice to her underling. Pulling into a space near her building, I walked up to the side entrance like before, but this time when I entered the little elevator room on the side of the building and hit the button, Regina answered, "Come on up." The elevator came down moments later and I slipped in. The option was already pressed when I entered and it started moving upwards. When the elevator reached the top, I was in fact faced with two HMG turrets, both on and pointing. I readied myself. It wouldn't be easy to survive if they both went off. Okay, even I would die if those two started firing at me in an enclosed space. But instead they powered down after a moment and Regina turned the corner. "Nice to see you face to face. Nice to not have guns pointed at me anymore." I mumbled, but stepped out and took her offered hand. Just a precaution. It wouldn't be the first time someone did a gig for me to try and get close enough to knife me. Well, luckily, I'm not here for that. No, you aren't. Payment for services rendered. She offered, her eyes flashing blue, and a hefty chunk of eddies was dropped into my account. I couldn't help the smile spread on my face. I would probably go hunt down that cyber deck once I was done here now. "Walk with me," she said after a moment, leading me out of the broken-down lobby and into a room with a massive window overlooking the city. She walked over, leaned against the glass looking outwards. I stood there for a few moments wondering what she was going to say, but the silence stretched on for a bit longer than was comfortable for me. "Motoko Kusanagi. I've looked into you a bit. Spoke with Wakako. She speaks highly of you. I've only worked with her a few times, thankfully. Never seemed to have a kind word for anyone, but you she did. I'll be honest, I didn't expect for Jotaro to die. Not so quickly after you said you could. I definitely didn't expect it to happen without anyone knowing who did it. TC leadership are convinced it was done at the behest of a family Jotaro murdered. They are all dead, just in case you didn't know. I was working with the mother when she was picked up by Hotaro's goons. Jotaro being a piece of shit and murdering an entire family? Color me not at all surprised. Still, it was kind of nice for Wakako to talk me up. I'd have to stop by and thank her sometime. Yeah, I heard. My brother mentioned everyone thought it was the family of a victim that put out the hit. And your skill meant no one had any evidence to say otherwise. You did good work. I have a contact with the TC, got me the report they put together about the kill. No evidence towards who could have done it at all. That isn't something any street kid with a Lexington can pull off. I simply waited without saying anything. It was one of those statements that was more a question. Like everyone at first, they want to know how a 14-year-old can act like a professional killer. The silence stretched, my eyes didn't blink, more than happy to wait for her to actually ask something, or just move on. She chuffed a soft laugh. Fine. I may have some gigs for someone with your skill set. I already spoke to Wakako about poaching you. She told me to go die in a ditch, but agreed that I can offer you some gigs without stepping on toes. I wouldn't mind a few gigs. I had to agree. A few fun gigs, some more eddies, it would give me something to do. Excellent. Today is a face-to-face. I'll reach out to you in the next week with a gig. Should be right up your alley. I have someone I need flatlined. I don't think that will be an issue? No. No problem. I'll kill someone if the gig says I need to. I answer simply. There was no point in trying to hide it. I really didn't have any emotional problems with killing people. Good. Then I'll be in touch with you soon once I set the gig up. I'll admit, kid, you aren't the normal type of merc I hire. But if I didn't already know you had killed Jotaro, even I wouldn't have any idea who did it. I can use that skill. As long as it stays consistent. Then we'll be working together a lot in the future. Anything else? No. Go on, kid, enjoy your eddies. I headed back to the elevator, always keeping an eye on the reflection of Regina in the window, and then on the HMG turrets that were still shut down, but it would only take a second for them to turn on. It wasn't that I didn't trust Regina. It was just I felt like she would stab me in the back if she thought it was useful. I had no real reason to expect it, but it was just a general paranoia. Whether it was good or bad would be determined, I suppose. Only once I was back in my quadra and driving down the street did I release a sigh. Finally. Time to go shopping. As I drove out towards the Ripper that Vic had told me had my cyber deck, I was more than happy to make this deal. But then as I started walking up to the place the Ripper should be, I had the wildest sense of déjà vu. I found myself staring past the sign of the Ripper dock, looking out into the water off the pier. I glanced at the opposite wall. A big 6th Street tag, which looked pretty fresh, was covering the wall. I knew this place. This was David's Ripper. That crazy fuck that had literally fucked David over by not giving him his meds after an operation. But also a guy that afterwards had tried to help out David. A weird dichotomy of a man. Either way, I knew how this fucker operated. He wouldn't lay a finger on my meat or my chrome. I shook away the ghosts of the future and stepped in, looking for the document. I called out, noticing the room was dirty. I didn't see him at first, only as his head popped out from behind his Ripper chair did I notice what he was doing. BD and masturbating. Greet. Oh. And who is this? Looking for some chrome? Well, I got the stuff all right. He said, his face shifting, looking me over. His electronic eyes had already noticed my equipment. He hadn't hesitated a moment before realizing I was here with Eddies. Victor Vector contacted you recently about a Cicho cyberdeck. You said you have one. Oh, that's who you are, Vix Chromie Y? Alright, come on in, I got what you want. He said with a chuckle that I wasn't sure if it was perversion or greed. Fucking slimeball. But after a few moments, he pulled out a canister, cracked the seal and pulled the canister open, showing the cyberdeck resting in the cradle. Then before I could get a view, he closed it down. 20 thou for this beauty. Bullshit. That thing isn't worth more than 15, and we both know it. Vic even confirmed the price with me. 20, these aren't easy to come by anymore. Got another buyer, so the price went up. He offered with a chuckle. This fucker. Fine if he wanted to play fuck around games. No deal. I'll go find another deck somewhere else then. I said, turning to leave the room. Hey, hold your chrome, you won't find another in the entire city. This little baby is worth the price. He offered, waving the canister at me enticingly. It's worth 15 grand max. If you want to sell it and have those eddies in your pocket right now, that's the price. I offered instantly. If it was any other Ripper, maybe I would have haggled, but I didn't want to deal with this guy in the first place. Tisk, no interest in bartering in the new generation. He said, but didn't agree to the price. Instead, he walked over and settled onto a chair, waving the canister at me. How about a deal, a few extras you can buy that might dash. I'm only here for the cyberdeck. If you aren't going to sell it, I'll delta. I cut him off. I didn't want anything this Ripper was selling, other than my new cyberdeck. Fine. I'll give it away at 16,000. Since you're here, and the other buyer isn't. I mean it, girl, you won't find anyone else with one of these babies. That's robbery. I'll throw an extra 500 on, lowest I'll go, offer me any other deal and I'm deltaing. I can find another cyberdeck. Hee, well I guess I'll just have to take it then. He offered, chuckling, but I wasn't happy. Before he could say anything, I snatched it out of his stupid cyber hand. Hey! I popped the seal and looked it over, scanning it for any problems. To my surprise, it was actually in good condition. I noticed a few problems, but just normal issues with cyberdecks that had been used before. I could actually fix most of them with a few minutes' work if I felt up to it, but I bet Vic could as well. Now my eddies, and I'll get that right in there for you. He offered, waving at his chair. Only his wasn't anything like Vic's. It had a fucking bite bar. Pass. I have my own ripper. I told him, but my eyes went blue and I sent over the 15,500 eddies, and walked out. I felt like I needed a bath. But Vic first. I wanted more RAM, damn it. Vic. I called out as I spun into his downstairs clinic, having leapt down the stairs and grabbed the handrail to turn my momentum into a spin inside. I got my cyberdeck. I told him, holding up the canister in both hands, to show it off. Heh. The old ripper couldn't help but laugh as he looked up from his laptop. He had been mid-email by the looks of it as I entered, seeing me practically bouncing on my toes to get an upgrade. Alright. Come on kid, let's take a look. I'll need to look over the deck before I install. Definitely. The chip is in good condition, but it could use a good cleanup, and maybe a repair to one of the neural input. I noticed the connection was a bit tarnished. Oh? Good eye. Heh, or good eyes, I suppose. He teased, looking up into my eyes before taking the canister from me and rolling across the floor. Alright, let's see what we're working with. He muttered as he slotted it into his system, and it instantly started doing a check on the deck, as well as a visual high-def magnification on the circuitry. Vic was cool. I settled on the ripper chair beside him and pointed out the tarnish I mentioned, only to see him use his tools to instantly clean it off, and even overlay a new gold overlay to ensure the connection wasn't damaged. All cleaned up and fixed up. You ready? He asked, teasing, but he did let his face relax a bit and asked the same question a bit more seriously. You sure you're ready? I hesitated but exhaled. This wasn't going to hurt me. It couldn't. Nothing about me would change. I was I. Motoko was Motoko. My body was a piece of me, but wasn't me. My soul. My ghost would not be harmed by something like this. Something so minuscule. Yes. I said, opening my eyes, my will firm and ready. Then let's settle you back. Chapter 57. I walked out of Vic's clinic into a new world. I could barely believe the difference a new cyberdeck brought. The speed, the clarity, the fact it was able to connect to my systems better. It wasn't 50-year-old tech trying to connect to modern Karoshi anymore. The Seicho MK2 wasn't top of the line, but it was a specialist deck. Made for rapid instant break-ins and uploads. It was more than 3 times the power of the Militech just outright. And that was only the numbers, and the numbers didn't tell the whole story. It was new architecture. The difference of more than 50 years of improvements on the programming code. Well, 50 years was saying a lot, considering the data crash pushed everything back so much the Para line was even still being sold. But the Seicho was new, responsive, and designed for someone like me. In my old life, it would be the difference in RAM from going from a DDR2 to a DDR5 memory stick. You could have both offer the same level of RAM, but the DDR5 was a different beast even with the same numbers. I glanced at a vending machine as I walked past, reaching down and scooping up the soda it dropped. I didn't even need to slow down. Didn't need to hold my eyes on the machine as I breached through its ICE. No. I simply looked, and instantly, the pointed knives of my attack slipped through all the defenses. I stepped out onto the street. People traveling up and down the streets moved past me, but it didn't matter. I was utterly focused on the netscape. As I slipped through barriers, defenses, and peeked into their secrets. This was cool. I was feeling pretty good once I got home, but I had a lot of work to do. First, I needed to level my programming skill up some more, because I wanted to do something crazy. I wanted my own quick hack. That was my goal. I wanted to be the netrunner that creates their own tools, because I wasn't some script kiddie playing around. I was Motoko fucking Kusanagi. I might not be the major, but I would do her proud by not being a net moron. So I took off my jacket, plopped my gloves on the table, stretched my fingers, and got to typing. Ping was still my target. I had managed to clean up a lot of the code, although now that I had a new deck I needed to adjust it again, the downside of slimming the program so much, but now it was a slim program that basically just did the one thing. It highlighted everything connected to the network, but I wanted it to do more than that. It could do more than that. First things started adding to the program, trying to make it harder to detect. Stealth was still my biggest advantage, and if I could ping a network without anyone noticing, even if there was an active netrunner, that would be an advantage I couldn't ignore. I knew just enough about programming now that as I started writing code to try and hide the ping network access that I knew it wasn't going to totally work, but that wasn't the point. I didn't need perfect. I just needed code that I could improve, correct, rip apart, and start again if I needed. It was all about grinding, and even within just a few minutes of work, I got another alert. 100 programming XP gained. Well, that just meant I was on the right track. Hey June. I called out as I continued to type along. This bit of code was just not working, and it was driving me nuts. Even my debug knowledge, while helpful, wasn't enough to fix it immediately. Although a sense of knowing had narrowed the bug down to just a small section of the code. Something here was wrong. I knew it was wrong. I knew it wouldn't work and would crash if I tried to use it, but I didn't know why. I was down to reading through each line of code going through the section I just knew something was wrong at. Luckily, once I finished reading a bit of the code I could ignore it after. The bug wasn't in anything I had already checked. So I just had to keep reading down the lines till I find it. Motoko. You okay? This bug is going to die, June. I kill things for a living, so I will eventually kill this bug too. I told him as my fingers continued to thrash along the keyboard slowly, line after line. The code dropped down further and further. I was nearing the end now. That's why. The port information was wrong. I had mistyped while going through it. A few moments later I finished the line and I knew it would work. The shorty from debug telling me this bit of code would work. It wasn't pretty. It was messy, and there was a memory leak in there I was gonna need to work out. But it worked. Programming skill level up. Programming 3. Phew. Get it? He asked as I glanced up. June had obviously made himself at home while I was focused, a burrito in his hands as he sat on the couch, beside me. I honestly hadn't even felt him sit down. Yeah, mostly. It's still garbage code, but it works, and it's mine. I told him with a smile as he nodded slowly, eyes on me as he ate his burrito. What? You are so weird now. I'm proud of you for actually sticking through it enough to learn net running stuff, but it's still so weird to see you so focused. He offered as he bit into his burrito and started chewing, eyes never leaving me. I felt my cheeks heating up a bit. It's just a useful skill. And it's not boring exactly. I don't really get bored as long as I'm doing something nowadays. I had to admit. Fact was, that fully knowing you could improve just by slamming your face into something made boredom sort of a non-issue. Like how someone can sit behind a computer and grind a stat in a video game, it was that same sense. Sure, you had already killed 1,000 goblins, but you only needed another 400 and you would level your sword skill. That same sense of just a bit more to get there was nice. Well, I'm glad. Maybe you'll start putting out some useful programs, get rich and retire from all this crazy merc stuff. Never. I said with a sharp grin. Even if I'm a bajillionaire, I'll still go out into the city and beat up gonks. I cried out, chrome fist raised. Yeah. I know. He said, not quite laughing but with a small smile on his face. I'll just have to keep getting dragged into your disasters to keep you safe. You followed me last time. I didn't drag you anywhere. Sure. He said, disagreeing with me in tone as he reached out and patted me on the head a few times. Whatever you say, Amuto. Just make sure you tell me before you go do something crazy again. I huffed at him, stupid Junanii. But since I was a generous little sister, I decided not to kick him while he ate. I instead focused on the program in front of me. It might be workable now. But it wasn't done. And neither was I. After a few more hours of fixing the code that I just wrote, because as I leveled up, I already knew a few things I could do to improve it. I sat back. June was still sitting beside me, although he had moved around a few times since the last time we chatted. He was now on the floor, instead of the couch, cleaning his equipment. His thermal katana, currently getting a going over as he sat and worked over the blade. I watched as he slowly wiped down the blade. He had already put it in a sharpener. The mechanical system rehoning the blade to a molecular edge. Science katanas were pretty cool. I should probably clean up mine too. I always did a little bit of work cleaning everything up when I was done, but my fingers were feeling a little itchy still. So I pushed my laptop away, and instead grabbed my axe. The guitar thrummed lightly as I hit some random notes, just a way to stretch out my fingers. The noise drew June's attention as he looked up. Still interested in being a rocker boy, huh? It's nice to do something that has nothing to do with my merc work. I told him honestly as I started strumming a little song. Nothing in particular. Instead, just a mishmash of different songs and chords that I wanted to hear. Still no good at it. He told me, teasing after a few minutes of me just playing around. Outrage. Vengeance. I instantly started into the opening riff to Ballad of Buck Ravers. My eyes locked on June as I played oldies, just to punish my brother that had no taste. His nose scrunched up as I started the vocals. Lost another day to pointless drudgery. Motoko, stop it. Play something good. I ignored his pleading, fully getting into it as I jumped onto the couch and started rocking out. I mean, sure, one of the neighbors started pounding on the walls mid-song, but the look of irritation on June's face was well worth it. That afternoon, long after I had driven June away with my perfect rendition of Samurai. Okay, it could still use some work, but it wasn't bad anymore. I was actually fairly competent with my guitar now. My voice could probably still use some practice though. Anyway, I got a call from someone I didn't expect. Itchy. Motoko. Hey, do you got a minute? I need some help. Itchy's voice started as soon as I picked up, even before I could say anything. What? Of course, Itchy, what's wrong? Jotaro Shobo is dead. Murdered at the Ho-Oh. I don't have a job anymore. Yeah, I heard about that from June, but what do you mean you don't have a job? Shobo needed people to haul stuff around, the new owner of Ho-Oh doesn't. Anyway, listen. I know you're crazy and stuff. You don't happen to have some work I can back you up on? You know I'm not amazing with iron, but I'm a good driver. I can dash Whoa, Itchy, slow down. I'm more than happy to work with you if you want, but what's going on? You're sounding freaked, I told him, and he did. He sounded stressed as fuck. I never told you, my parents are deadbeats. I don't even see them, but I live with my grandmother. She's old, Motoko. Can't really work anymore, but I can't just. I pay the rent and buy food and stuff, but without my job with Jotaro, I don't, Shit. This was my fault. I hadn't even considered the repercussions of killing Jotaro on my chum. Okay, it didn't matter, I still would have killed him. I like Itchy, but his comfortable job wasn't worth the monstrous shit Jotaro did, but that didn't mean I wasn't responsible here. The TC won't give you work? I mean, you did great during the war, right? Motoko, the war is over. There were a lot of drivers that don't have a job anymore. The old-timers can go back to their old jobs, the ones that made a name for themselves, can get pulled in under a boss, but Jotaro was my boss. He was the only one that would speak for me. I'm back to square one, Ouch. That actually sucked. Well. It's a good thing you got your good chum Motoko then. Forget the TC, Itchy. They pay shit, and your boss was a psycho. Motoko mercenary jobs pay way better, I told him proudly. Then he laughed. You certainly haven't changed. But listen, I don't have a lot of eddies right now. Do you have anything I can help with? I hummed as I considered the problem. First off, I really didn't. It wasn't like I had a bunch of Scav. Itchy. You got around a lot in the city during the war, right? Asterisk. Yeah, I traveled all over. Then do you know where like all the rippers in the city are? Asterisk all? No, probably not. I know most of them though. Jotaro. Well, he had deliveries to different rippers, asterisk. Asterisk, yeah, he is a monster, let's move past that. He is dead. Knife to the throat. Terrible way to go. Listen, I need to find a specific ripper. I don't know exactly what his name is or anything, but I caught a rumor that a ripper is working with the Scavs. In other words, people going to him for work sometimes disappear, and their chrome ends up in Scav hands, asterisk. Fuck. Asterisk, yeah, boo it, if we find him, and confirm it, I can smash the Scavs, kill the ripper and end up with a whole lot of premium chrome and equipment. I'll need someone who can clear out a base for me. Collect the loot. You wouldn't happen to know a guy? Asterisk. I know a guy, Ichi said, sounding excited. I could practically hear the cash register noise going on in his mind. Asterisk, cool. So how about you come by? We'll go hit all the rippers you know. If I see the place, I'll know which one, asterisk. Asterisk, really? Just by seeing it, asterisk. Asterisk, come on, Ichi. How many scavs do you think I've killed? I can practically smell them, asterisk, I told him with a laugh, which he shared. We agreed to meet up and drive around. If Regina or Wakako weren't going to get back to me soon enough, I'll just make my own gigs. With chums. And rippers. Although Ichi did come around in his truck. I pulled him into my quadra instead. This was just reconnaissance after all. It was funny, it actually didn't take me long to find the right place. The only thing I remember about the quest after racking my brain about it was that I ended up gaining the quest in the game while I was around Kabuki Market. The big roundabout that had the dewdrop in. So I knew it had to be around there. With Ichi's help, mostly his street knowledge, and helping navigate the side streets. We only stopped at 2 other rippers before we came to a ripper shop set up in an alley that was twigging me hard. When we walked in, I was already sure about it. Welcome. How can I help today? Need some new chrome? He asked Ichi as he entered in front of me looking very excited, until he noticed me following in. The multiple weapons I was carrying, including my thermal katana, had the guy instantly looking nervous. Ichi followed through on what I told him, our little plot, to make sure it wasn't weird we were walking in. Of course the fact he was blushing a bit made it all the funnier. I'm looking for a Mr. Stud, he said in the most dead inside voice I had ever heard from the boy. I pointedly wasn't looking straight at Ichi, but I was still recording it. This might be a more private BD, but I was planning on bribing Judy and getting this one done so I could share it with the crew. Malcolm was going to die when he saw this. And Hiromi would never leave Ichi alone. Yeah, I have a few models. Come on in, son, and this is... your girlfriend? Pimp. I offered instead, making Ichi turn on me, his face gaping in utter horror at my words. Make sure my little guy gets something packing, okay? I said, cold blood cranked up to maximum, the only reason my face wasn't breaking down into absolute mirth at the look on Ichi's face. Wha? Motoko. The Ripper sounded confused, looking a little surprised at the way this entire conversation was going. Fine. You win the 50 eddies. Sorry doc, just a prank on my chum here. Nice place, next time I get some chrome, I'll know where to come. I told him as I walked back out of the office, leaving a stupefied Ripper and an angry Ichi following after. Blackmail. Get. It's not funny. Ichi growled at me. It totally is, and it means that Doc won't think twice about us until it's too late. I really doubt us going in, browsing and walking out is going to cause him to wonder either. It would, since you have no poker face and it looked like you were trying to case the place, now it just looks like you were embarrassed. I am embarrassed. Well, don't worry. That Doc is the one. He'll be dead soon and no one but me will ever know. I lied blatantly. Motoko. Why did you just lie to me? I have no idea what you were talking about, Ichi. You pointedly looked away from me, and weren't able to stop grinning when you just said that. That's your lying face. Nope. Doesn't sound like me. Come on, let's go call everyone. More hands will make clearing that place way easier. Motoko. Oh, look, a call. I told him as I quickly called Malcolm to invite him to the gig. This was going to be fun. Chapter 58. Funnily enough, we were all at the Ho-Oh Club that night. Even Hiromi made it. Of course, the place was wildly different right out the gate. There were still a bunch of TC guys, but the atmosphere had changed. It was more relaxed, and there were signs up, talking about opening of the upstairs areas. Apparently the private TC second floor was opening up soon, to bring more attention to the bar. I honestly didn't want to meet up here, but it was kinda the closest club to everyone's home. And despite my knowledge about Jotaro, most of the others had no idea. I guess since he was dead it was fine now. So here is the gig. I whispered, sending everyone a text message with the details I had put together, including the address and pictures of the building. Both back and front. Ichi and I had driven around, enough that I had confirmed the Scav base below as well. I let them read the little snippet I had put together, and everyone was nodding along as they read through. So what's the cut for everyone? Malcolm asked before even finishing the brief. Fair split between everyone, excluding any chrome that someone wants to chip. Just like last time, but this time we'll be looting more thoroughly. There should be Ripper equipment we can clep, for example. Who are we selling to? Hiromi asked, breaking in as Malcolm was practically bursting at the seams at the idea of all the eddies. I haven't got that far yet? Gonk. Nope. We aren't doing that again. Fine. I'll make some calls, and find buyers. Motoko. Send me your fixer's number as well. You know Wakako, right? She might have some buyers as well. Hiromi demanded as her eyes went gold and she sat back as she started calling. Someone? Wow, Hiromi was pretty cool. I sent her a text with Wakako's number and refocused on the boys. How much loot are we looking at, Motoko? Honestly? No idea. But that's the thing. We clear this place, and if I do it fast enough, maybe I can pull some information on another den. I would like to be able to just keep hitting them. That'll piss off the scavs. Like seriously piss them off, they come after you. After us. Not if we do it without anyone knowing. I told him firmly. I go and clear them as quietly as I can. If I do my job right, no one fires a bullet, no one finds out until the place is empty and we are long gone. I'll trash any recordings of what happened. I got an upgrade. I told him, tapping the back of my head where my cyberdeck is installed. Okay, but what if you do get seen, and word gets out? I opened my mouth to assure him that wouldn't happen before closing it. Okay. I don't wear my normal gear. I'll suit up in something new. We all will. Masks and everything. Your Villafur Columbus truck isn't exactly unique either. It's the most common moving truck in Night City. He said, rolling his eyes. And that was done on purpose. It was Jotaro-sama's idea, drive around in a vehicle no one would look twice at. He said, sounding a little sad. Ugh. Ichi, don't feel bad about that bastard. Well, it works for us. So we go buy some gear first, and then we'll be good to go. I don't have the eddies for that. Malcolm said outright. I've been out of work for a few weeks since. Well, since the war and stuff. Not exactly doing great either. Ichi agreed, and I nodded. Not to worry, chums. This is a business expense, and will come out of the company expense account. I'll pay for it, you can pay me back later, or not. I don't really care. Motoko. I'm not gonna just take dash. I'm not gonna steal from a chewed dash. They both started arguing, but I waved a hand at both of them to shush them. We'll make 10 times whatever I pay for the gear we need on the loot, and I can't make much just by myself. You guys bring the truck, and the looting experience. So I'll pay for this. You pay with your truck, and Hiromi I guess is paying by taking care of the least important stuff. I add right at the end teasingly, as I noticed Hiromi's eyes turn back to normal as her call ended. The fact she kicked me hard in the shin a moment later was totally worth the look of outrage on her face. Motoko! She snapped at me, making me giggle up a storm as even Ichi and Malcolm started chuckling along. Sorry. You finding buyers is super important. Find anything? Not yet. I was calling my dad for advice. I hope that doesn't bother you, Motoko. I did tell him what we are doing? I winced a little, but in the end, shrugged. I highly doubt a small ripper dock and some scavs will interest your dad at all. So I think we're good. What did he say? He's gonna give me a shard on marketing that I apparently need to study now. She grumbled, glaring at nothing. But he did give me some advice on who to contact from Arasaka intel that he has access to. So yeah, we have some options. He suggested I know what I'm selling before I start calling around though. Great. So we go, clear it out, and then Hiromi can find us buyers. This is gonna be so much fun. I cheered, getting looks from everyone at the table. They just didn't understand why raiding scavs was fun, because they were boring and afraid of bullets and stuff. It's fine. More fun for me. Obviously, I wasn't going to rush into this. So even as the sun was going down, we were all heading away from Ho-Oh Club towards a certain little shop I know. We entered in through the front. The guard was still around. The LMG in his hands deadly, but after we entered, he went on to ignore us as I walked up to the little old Asian lady that I had bought my leotards from. Oh? Back again, and with friends? I need some work done. Or at least supplies. I'm wondering if you can help me out. She looked over the little oval glasses she was wearing at the four of us before beckoned us into the back of her shop. Let's talk what you need. 3 hours later, we were actually getting close to being done. I had paid for a rush job since we were all here and had the time at the moment. Between machines, the old lady's incredibly fast stitching and machine work, and me quickly starting to help out, which surprised her, I got my crew all specced out. Hiromi had even headed out to grab some new boots and supplies for everyone to go along with it. They weren't netrunner suits exactly. More just heavily armored clothing. But they were tight, dark-colored, and looked pretty cool. All of us would even match. I mean, sure, I had considered going for the three-piece suit look. Can't beat a classic look. But considering only corpos wore anything close to that, we would stand out, and the goal was to try and stand out as little as possible while staying protected. Even if we were in matching clothes. Done. The lady mentioned pulling out a final jacket piece out of the machine, looking it over, and throwing it at Hiromi. With that, we were all done. Boots, armored pants, and armored shirt and jacket. It looked pretty generic, but it was armored clothing, and would give us some anonymity. Thanks, Oba-san. Bah. Pay me first, then thank me. She barked at me with a chuckle as I nodded quickly and did just that. The payment was hefty. I was really lucky I had gotten Regina's eddies, otherwise that would have broken my bank. Now I don't know what you are planning. Nor do I want to. I never helped you. Get out. She ordered, waving at the door, and we all gathered up our leftover clothes and rushed out towards the cars. Hiromi jumped in to ride with me in the quadra as we all split off. Preparation almost complete. Soon we strike. What are you wearing? June asked as I was standing in the bathroom looking at the mirror making some adjustments to my new outfit. It's my new secret killer outfit. I found a Scav den attached to a ripper dock. We are going to clear the place out and loot it to the bedrock, but we don't want anyone knowing it's us. I told June as I kept working on my stitching. I needed to make sure it fit right. It would be really annoying if not. Okay, ninja girl, he said, and I quickly spun around, throwing my hands into a ninja hand sign as I did. Neen. I told him seriously. What I had been working on was a face mask, a ninja mask specifically. I had spent a little extra at the old lady's shop and bought some really breathable cloth so I could make it. You look like a dork. What's with the fingers? My secret ninjutsu. Embarrassing. A secret ninjutsu. Motoko kick. I called out, rushing towards him, but June knew a bad fight and instead of fighting back turned and ran. My kick missed by a mile, but that wasn't enough to stop me. Secret ninjutsu, burrito throwing knife. Burrito Waruk. June in his haste to flee had left the wrapped XXL burrito on the kitchen counter. I of course made do with my improvised weapon that smacked right into my brother's face as he turned to see what I was doing. Motoko. Ha ha ha. Pretty Princess Ninja Motoko wins a jerk. That of course was the sound of my Borg brother tackling me onto the hard tile of the kitchen. Lesson learned. Leave June's burritos alone, he gets touchy about it. Once I finally fought off the Oni, I had nearly 24 hours before the gig was set to begin. Without any other prep I could get into at the moment. So I pulled out my guitar and started thrashing, letting all the nervous energy flow into it. Yeah, I was a little nervous. It was one thing being on a gig solo, but even if I wasn't planning on having my chums involved until the end, that still meant they were there. One wrong move and they would get involved trying to help, so I put the energy into the guitar. It was nice. I'll burn it down. I yelled out the last line. Franz Ferdinand isn't usually my taste, but it was an official Cyberpunk song. This Fire was an alright song. I didn't hate it. Plus it fit the energy I was feeling. Rocker Boy skill level up. 1 perk point gained. I caught my breath as I checked my stats. Rocker Boy 5, huh? That was pretty fast, but then again, I was playing song after song whenever I wasn't grinding something else. I think mostly it was my general disinterest in most of the TV shows in the future. They were weird, so I didn't want to watch them. One episode of just about anything was enough for me to burn out on it, but I knew what perk to pick. My biggest problem with music now wasn't song list or playing. It was singing. Listen. I just never really learned how to sing. It's more complicated than just singing along while driving down the road or something, you know? So I picked the perk I had almost picked last time. Siren Song. You control your voice. You can sing. Croon like Sinatra, or rock like Silverhand. You know how to get the most out of your voice. I shivered. Rocker Boy had given me some singing lessons, even if it felt like they fell behind the actual musical knowledge. It was like knowing how to sing a note, and knowing how to sing a song. They weren't exactly the same. I reached up to my throat, swallowing down almost like I had something caught in my throat, but it was just how I was holding the muscles in my throat. I knew how to actually modulate my voice now. How to sing, how to breath and exhale while singing. Hell, I knew how to mimic voices now. That made me blink. Could I? I looked around the room, there wasn't a mirror anywhere, so I hurried to the bathroom looking at myself in the mirror. A mirror of a mirror. I had mirrored myself in a way. Motoko Kusanagi. A storybook character that I had practically become. Similar eyes, same hair, hell same build, even if mine was meat and not chrome for the most part. Honestly, there were times I forgot that I was basically playing pretend. But was I? It wasn't any different than someone deciding to wear the same clothes as some celebrity, or the same haircut. I just also shared a name, well, and a burgeoning skill set, but that was going to happen anyways. But this? Might be a little too far. If anyone found out, it would be so embarrassing. The net is vast and infinite. I spoke, but it wasn't my voice. Oh no. It was husky and mature, and I could feel my face flush in delight and embarrassment. I cleared my voice and decided I could do it, saying a line I remember from the show. Batu, not more weight training equipment. Blowing your pay is one thing. Oh god, I can't do it. Sexy Motoko voice is too much. I still remember that scene where Motoko makes Batu punch himself. It was one of my favorites. But to be able to literally copy her voice. Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. Sorry, I took your voice for a minute. I'm such a weeb. Omfriggle. I buried my head in my knees for a moment, trying to keep making any more noises of embarrassment. I relaxed my throat, letting my voice go back to normal. Okay. I'm gonna have to put a ban on sexy Motoko voice. That's a secret dangerous skill. What is? June asked, having come out of his room at some point as he pulled open the fridge. Nothing. You didn't hear anything. You can't tell. I screamed at him, even pulling up my guitar, which I still had strapped to my hip, and pointed it at him. Would I knock Jun unconscious if he knew? Yes. Yes, I would. He blinked at me as he reached in and grabbed a drink, pulling the can out and popping the tab in one motion before taking a long sip. Motoko. Emuto. You're really weird. He finally said, crushing me in a totally unexpected way. I gaped at him as he walked away. You destroy your little sister's self-esteem and just walk away. Yep. That bastard. Tease me, will he? Fine, I will just have to release my new secret skill. For revenge. I stepped out of the bathroom after him, waiting for him to be almost into his bedroom when I spoke, but not in my voice. No, the Major's husky words poured forth. June, you should be nicer to your little sister. You never know when she's going to grow up. I pointed out, and I enjoyed the way my words affected my brother. First, he had stilled at the unfamiliar voice searching around until he saw me, and then he was left gaping this time. What the fuck? Aha, June boy. Those are naughty words. I told him, still in my sexy voice. Motoko. What the fuck? What's wrong, June and I? Is there something bothering you? I asked, my smirking growing wide. Tease me, will he? Make fun of me, will he? I have skills. All of the skills. Motoko, that's super creepy. Is that so? I asked him, before reaching up and messing with my throat a little. That's gonna take some getting used to. I told him in my normal voice. Don't do that again. That's creepy. Where did you even learn to do that? What's wrong, June? Is your little sister growing up scaring you? Funnily, June didn't answer, just sort of throwing up his arms and then pointing at me and shaking his hand in my direction as if saying enough was enough. Sleep tight, I said, returning to my sexy voice, which had June swiftly run away. Victory is mine. Now who's weird? Huh. Actually. Messing with my brother with a sexy mature voice. Fuck. I am weird. I muttered. Chapter 59. I ended up practicing some songs for another hour or so to see what my new voice could do, before June threw a pillow to shut me up. But while I couldn't mimic all voices, I had a pretty large range, and so some songs I could even sing in character. It was fun. But since June was going to sleep, I settled in to do more programming through the night. Like all programmers, I ended up going out and getting some coffee, and then piling the coffee table full of old cups as I worked on the keyboard. Motoko. Did you even sleep? June asked as he shuffles out of his room that morning. Not yet. I'll take a nap in a bit, I told him, which wasn't untrue. A good 8 hours would soon be on the horizon, meaning I would be at 100% for the gig. Well, make sure you sleep. You said you were going out on that gig. I can come. Why dash? Denied. This is a Motoko crew only thing. It's gonna be a milk run, June. Just some scavs that need to be exterminated, I told him, throwing a thumbs up towards him without looking away from the screen. Plus, if anything goes wrong, Ichi, Hiromi, and Malcolm will be there as backup. Didn't Hiromi crash her bike dash? June. You can't repeat that. I told you that in confidence. I hissed at him, pointing. Besides, Hiromi is like the fixer for this job. She's going to be contacting buyers for the loot, so she doesn't have to fight. I wish you wouldn't pull this shit. But you do have the skill. Take some extra firepower at least. For your chums or something. Oh, that's a good idea. I'll grab some stuff and bring it along. Too bad my HMG was still in rough shape. I really needed to fix that thing. Alright, he sighed, I can't stick around. Call or text me when the gig starts, and then when it's over. If it takes too long, I'll be coming. Okay. I'll let you know. Now get out of here. You got work? Just some stuff with Sensei today. We are removing all the stuff the TC put into the dojo. I blinked before remembering the underground room full of tech, and the Ripper room. I guess it made sense. The place was basically the CNC for the kamikaze. Pulling it out now that it wasn't in use, and clearing up Sensei's dojo, made sense. "Alright, drive safe," I called out, only getting a grumble in return. I was back to working on ping, trying to get my little addition working when it happened. Intelligence leveled up. I blinked. Level 7. Yes. I cheered as the level up came in. I guess all my programming had finally given me an upgrade. I settled back down, and I did actually notice a difference as I worked. I hadn't been able to really notice a difference between intelligence levels before, but this time, since I was programming before and after, I could pick out the differences. It wasn't that I was just smarter, but I did process information faster. I could look at a cluster of code and process through it that bit faster than I had before. The numbers were able to be calculated just that little bit faster. It was nice, but I pushed that aside. It didn't really change anything, just made it a little bit easier. So I spent the next hour or so debugging the code. It would work. It was messy. It wasn't clean. But it would make ping a little bit harder to track if I used it on a network. Stretching out, I uploaded the completed program into my Cyberdeck and shut the laptop down. "Time for a nap. You all look great," I told the crew as we met up. We were all meeting up at Hiromi's apartment complex. Funnily enough, the security there meant that it was actually pretty safe to gather together in our armored clothes before the gig. Sure, there were cameras, but if you knew anything about Night City, you knew that anyone in a corp isn't going to want records of their coming and going. So the garage was pretty safe. We all met up around Ichi's truck. I was the last to show up, much to my embarrassment. Thankfully, Hiromi distracted me from being late. "What's with your mask, Motoko?" Hiromi asked, and I smiled as the bottom of my face was covered in a cloth ninja mask. I was pulling a Kakashi. "I'm a ninja, Hiromi." "Neen." I told her happily. "Neen? What the fuck is that?" Malcolm asked, just confused, and so was everyone else. "And 3/4 of you call yourself Japanese." Disappointed. I tell them all frankly. Now enough about my amazing ninja outfit. Let's go over the plan again, I said, grabbing everyone's attention. I had planned this last night. I had wanted to mess with my friends to work off some of the anxiety. So I coughed lightly into my fist, altering my voice to my sexy Motoko. "Attention, Section 9. Mission brief begins now." And then I stood there enjoying the lovely chaos. Hiromi's jaw dropped. Malcolm looked utterly confused, looking around as if wondering what the hell was going on. Ichi had a flush crawling up his neck to his ears as she stared at me. "Oh? Cat got your tongues?" I mocked a little, putting a hand on my hip and cocking it a bit. "I suppose I'll have Hiromi." "Mutataku. Did you get a voice changer? Your new voice is so sexy." "Amazing," Hiromi called out after tackling me, nearly knocking me on my ass as I had to spin her a bit to bleed off her momentum. "It's certainly mature," Ichi offered. "Is Motoko fucking with us?" Malcolm added. "I'm not fucking with you." I offered to Malcolm, and I got to enjoy the way his face got a little flushed too as I threw him a wink. I've never heard that voice before. It's pretty good. What's it called? Ichi asked a little too calmly. Well, fortunately for me, it's not a voice changer. I pulled down my ninja mask, showing my unchromed neck. I just learned how to change my voice a little. It's mostly in the chest, breathing differently, to make me a bit deeper and huskier. I offered with a casual shrug. Once you knew the trick, it really was pretty easy. My answer did not in fact calm things. I ignored the many questions from my chums as I coughed into my fist. Let's all settle down now. We have a gig to do, don't we? Malcolm. Ichi, everything settled with the truck? I prompted, cutting through the many questions, and my voice did grab attention. Yeah, I messed with the license plate. As long as we don't run past any NCPD, we'll be fine, and any recordings will have the wrong plate. Excellent. Malcolm, you got the equipment loaded? Yeep, he said, staring a bit but shaking it off. The trolleys and loading tools are all in there ready for us. Hiromi, ready for boredom? Yees. I mean no? She asked, looking a little frazzled as she was still hugging me. I smiled at her and patted her on the head. Good job, I told her and turned towards my car. I have some extra weapons if anyone wants something with a bit more kick. I doubt we will need them, but I would rather you have them just in case. I called out as I pulled away from a suddenly limp Hiromi. Yeah, I'll take something. I only have my normal iron. Wasn't any reason to pick up something bigger during the war. If I got into a fight, I was fucked already. Ichi called out and Malcolm echoed him as I pulled open the side door on the quadra, showing my collection of shotguns and rifles. The Nakomata was there too, but I was gonna slap anyone upside the head if they went for that. You have to be trained to use a sniper. Hiromi didn't collect anything, but the two boys each grabbed a shotgun. Hey Motoko, are you gonna use that voice from now on? Hiromi asked quietly, but I laughed, which sounded pretty cool in sexy Motoko voice. No. This was just a little trick I was playing on all of you to calm you all down for the gig. Unfortunately, sexy Motoko voice is going away, I said, relaxing my throat and stretching it a bit with a hand. See? Back to normal. Ah. Hiromi whined and even Ichi and Malcolm looked disappointed. Of course. The Major's best voice is definitely an amazing voice. I'm almost sorry to go back to my normal voice too. Alright everyone. Section 9. Move out. Section 9? Malcolm asked, and I could see Ichi just shrug out of the corner of my eye. I ignored them of course and climbed into the back of the truck with Malcolm. Hiromi and Ichi were driving, and Malcolm was the one with experience in the back of these trucks. And so we set off. Seriously though Motoko, that voice is pretty preem, especially since you can just switch like that. Malcolm, it's been 10 minutes. Let it go already, I told him. I guess my plan to distract my team went a little too well. Here it is. But seriously, the voice. He whispered to me as we bounced lightly down the road. Just keep focused, I told him as I kneeled down. My recording of the gig started, and as the truck passed across the spot I rolled out of it landing on my feet and with a quick jog slowed myself down as I ran up a set of stairs into the alley. I reached the back entrance of the Scav's den in moments. The sun was down. The lights were dim in this area, and no one noticed a lone truck just driving down the street. Ichi would drive around the building parking near the front entrance until he got the call. Until then I was on my own, looking around and being pleased there was no one around. Not even cameras or anything. A little dead spot. Probably set up like that on purpose, I realized. My eyes flashed as I started scanning. As I slipped inside the door, not even taking a second to get through. It looked like an old chop shop. A busted-up car that was half taken apart stood in the little garage area. Figure Scavs would hide in such a place. No sign of them being Scavs yet. But I already knew. I just wanted evidence on the BD. In fact, the garage bay was empty, both floors, and I made sure to look up checking for cameras and things, just to be sure. Nothing. I smiled as I crept up and looked through the windows on the garage. The Scavs had a nice little living space. A few were hanging around watching TV, one had a wreath on his head. I would definitely be killing him mid-BD, he was practically begging for it. But not yet. I started counting. Getting my numbers. Unlike previous gigs, I wasn't going to kill as I go. I was going to know exactly how many Scavs I needed to murder before I started. They wouldn't know I was here until it was too late. Instead of heading into their living area, I moved to the yellow utility stairs leading to the second floor overlooking the garage area. It also wrapped around, leading into a second floor of the living space. No one was here. So it was literally giving me full access to everything they were doing. Following along there was a door I checked. Small storage. Nothing immediately interesting. I continued. Down a hall, to another little room that had the normal interior stairs. Since no one was up here, I checked the door. Another storage closet. Was this place all storage closets? But then I noticed the security access panel on the wall. I closed the closet door behind me as I jacked in. It was a rush. The Seicho was a whole other beast compared to the Paraline. The moment I connected, I could practically smell the lack of a net runner protecting the place, and I broke through the ice in seconds. It was wet. One of the already solved ICE walls that I had picked up from Yoko. These idiots hadn't upgraded their security in at least 20 years. With that, I had access to their security net. I also was able to send a ping through the system. Instantly, lines of light erupted in my view. 10 scavs? Might as well sleep through this gig. With them all in my sights, I felt extremely comfortable moving around. I traveled across the weird upper level this place had, letting me look down at the stupid Scav gonks and their day-to-day. I even zoomed in on one of them playing some game on a laptop. Watching for a minute before he failed a jump and died. Pathetic. I couldn't help but whisper. The radio, TV, and general noise of people on electronics, more than enough to keep my voice hidden. But as I traveled across, I noticed it. There was another set of stairs in the corner behind me, heading down. I had scoped out this entire area, and there was no scav shit up here. Just scavs. Some of which did have bounties. I could just start killing. No, I instead moved back across the catwalk, finding a space that would work. I jumped down to avoid some of the wandering scavs and reached the basement stairs in a quiet pomp of noise before sneaking in. The stairs led into a broken room, with the plastic strips that were often used in Night City to stop blood splatter. The fact there was a body broken open and ripped apart on the chair was evidence enough of what happened here. Okay. I got confirmation. There was no one down here. Perfect. I slipped over to the body, bypassing it until I reached a computer that was stationed nearby. It took a bit longer to break the ICE on this one. It was newer, but off the shelf, without a netrunner protecting it. It only took me a minute before I was in. While I pushed a shard into the computer setup and started downloading everything. Emails. Connections. I even hacked in and started downloading the OS records. There would be nothing on this computer that I wouldn't have. I was reading the emails, making sure that Charles was the nasty guy I expected him to be. That this wasn't something he was being blackmailed to do. I would still kill him if he was being blackmailed, but I would feel slightly bad about it. But nope. I had read enough to confirm his participation. Then I unplugged. Pocketing the shard. Time to roll. I stalked back upstairs. Thanks to ping, I already knew where everyone was. 9 scavs hanging around the living room. And Charles the Ripper behind me. Turns out he was hooked into the security net as well. Made sense. But he would be last. First Gonk died from surprise loss of the ability to breathe through all the blood flooding down his neck. I dropped his body. I didn't need to hide bodies, simply leaving him on the floor where he had been walking towards a table to grab some grub. 500 XP gained. There wouldn't be anyone left to find them soon. Next guy was BD Wreath guy. As was tradition, I took him out just as quickly and moved on. 500 XP gained. Third and fourth died together. They were watching TV like a married couple. I had a spare knife now thanks to a Raf and Shiv member, and my knife and Shiv sunk in and tore free, killing them both in quiet gurgles. 500 XP gained. 500 XP gained. Fifth guy I didn't even sneak up on. He was sitting at a table eating, and I walked right across the room to him. He noticed me only in the last moment, eyes widening before my knife swept through his throat. 500 XP gained. I ignored his fumbled attempts to talk as he fell out of his chair. The noise must have alerted someone as I saw the golden line shift closer to me. I just flipped my shiv and tossed it. The poor number 6 Scav rounded the corner, not even armed, just looking around wondering what the noise was when the knife took him in the chest. My second throw took him down instantly. 500 XP gained. Honestly, Scavs were so pathetic. Barely any chrome on these ones. The first Scav den was more put together than this one. Then again, from the emails I had looked through on the computer downstairs, these weren't the best of the best, just some guys meant to keep an eye on the dock, to do his dirty work. No, I would be searching for their main base once they were cleaned up. But I moved on. 7, 8 and 9 were together as well. sitting on a couch watching some TV. I thought out my assault in an instant and moved. One knife was thrown as I leaped over the couch, slipping into a poor gunk's throat. My other hand slammed a knife into the Scav on my right, slipping into his trachea. I tore it loose, uncaring about the blood that splattered over me and Scav gunk number 9. 500 XP gained. 500 XP gained. The fact I had landed directly in his lap gave him about a second to start trying to react. Instinct meant he tried to push me off. I rolled with his motion, spinning a bit in his lap until we were face to face. Then he coughed, my knife slipping up and into his chin. His body shook, trying to do something as he slowly gagged and choked to death. 500 XP gained. With that done, I sent a text to the crew letting them know to move in. I hurried back through the den downstairs and then up until I reached the door to the doctor's fake Ripper clinic. Then I just walked inside. Malcolm and Hiromi were already inside, and the Ripper wasn't looking too happy with both gun-toting teens. Oh, don't cause a fuss, Charles. We already know you're working with the Scavs, I said in my sexy voice to the room. The Ripper spun to face me as I opened the door, looking horrified that I had come up from the basement. My words, and the fact I was coming out of his back room, quieted the room. Oh, and probably the blood. I was covered in a lot of blood. Hey, that's not it. They forced me. The dash. I read your emails, Charles, I assured him. Then, before anyone could react, I drew my Lexington and fired. Then I walked over and fired twice more. Always double tap when possible. 500 XP gained. Cold blood skill level up. I closed my eyes and turned off the BD recording. Cold blood level 8. It was now maxed out compared to my current cool stat. Okay guys, you all ready? I asked, turning to my team. Why are you using the sexy voice again? Malcolm couldn't help but snap at me, even if he was looking more towards the dead body. I guess I like it, I said with a smile under my mask. Oh, well, I like it too. Hiromi offered her katana sheathed with a little flourish. She would look perfectly at ease if not for the slight shake to her hands. Alright, let's go through everything. Malcolm, start here, find his cyberware and box it. Hiromi, you're with Malcolm. I'll go help Ichi at the back. Yes, Motoko. Hiromi jumped to it, seeming a little too quick to listen to me. What was with that girl? Chapter 60. For once, cleaning up the place went without any issues. I ended up dragging the bodies away from where I killed them all and pushed them into a corner so they wouldn't bother the others, while Ichi ran through the base finding loot and gathering it all up. I did take a small break to grab the Scav's laptops laying around. Hopefully I could use a bit of net running sneakery and figure out another Scav den. Honestly, we probably could use more hands next time we did this, but while everyone did start flagging an hour in, I just reminded them that the more we could drag out of here, the more eddies we would have in the end. Boxes of cyberware. Computer equipment. Ripper equipment. Bits and bobs from the chop shop that Ichi confirmed would make some eddies if sold. In the end, we filled up the truck with the most valuable stuff and left the stuff that would be harder to sell. We all climbed back into the truck and drove off. I finally pulled down the mask once the back of the truck was down and Malcolm and I were both squished into the loot we had gathered. The boy might be exhausted, but there was a shit-eating grin on his face as he rested back. We stopped at Hiromi's apartment again, all of us relaxing from the gig. Alright, Section 9. I called out once again using my sexy voice, which had an instant effect. Stop doing that. Ichi called back as he blushed a little, but Hiromi elbowed him instantly as she threw me a thumbs up. Malcolm just shook his head at my nonsense. Never. It's far too fun. Excellent work, everyone. Hiromi, Malcolm, did you find anything interesting in the cyberware? Loads of stuff. Malcolm practically exploded. I mean, it sucks it's all Scav chrome, but holy shit, they pulled some preem chrome, Motoko. You're gonna be picking some stuff yourself at this rate. Malcolm and Hiromi's reaction had Ichi and I both looking a little excited. Okay, pull out the box of stuff, let's take a look. Not here, you gonk. Hiromi demanded, shaking her head at me. Let's put the boxes in the cars and drive it out of here first. There are still cameras. She reminded me, and I bowed my head in acknowledgement. True. Let's pull the chrome boxes and load them into our rides, meet up at Vic's. I'm gonna pass. You guys know I don't really need new chrome. My rents would get me whatever I need, Arasaka stuff. You guys take it. I'm gonna start calling buyers. Just let me know what you don't end up using. Or what you don't sell to Vic Motoko. She said, looking squarely at me with a face. Hey. I didn't deserve a face. Besides. Okay, fine, yeah, I was probably going to sell the rest of the stuff to Vic. He deserved to be well stocked, and I know he would do good with this chrome that had a terrible origin. Make up for some of the bad karma of it all. Oh, hey, is that a mantis blade? A Militech infuser? Never heard of it. Malcolm said as he pulled out. They weren't arms themselves, but more like pieces that could be installed in cyberarms. You want them, Motoko? Malcolm asked, looking up at me with a face that was practically sparkling. As much as I might, I'm keeping any installs to small things for now. I told him, shaking my head. Is there any Netrunner stuff? I think. Yeah, small box of some old decks by the looks of them. Nothing good. Oh, here you go. He pulled out a small case and popped it open. X-Disc. Nice. I cheered. X-Disc were Neuralware mods that would increase a Cyberdeck's RAM. More RAM. Faster punching through Gonk's security. Yoink. I snagged it away, which he chuckled at as I closed the little case and put it in a pocket. That would go with me to Vic later. Odds and ends. What the hell? These are some absolutely ancient cyber eyes. I'd be surprised if they even connect to everything anymore. Malcolm grumbled as he wiped some dust off the thermos-looking canister. Unless the canister was just used to store it. We'll pop it with Vic and see if it's any good. I reminded him, earning a pleased smile. Motoko. Smart link. Ichi called out, waving it at me. What, don't want it yourself? I asked, but he just looked at me. Only one of us is a crazy solo that clears out entire Scav dens on their own. Which means I already don't need it. I tease, but he tossed it at me regardless, and I quickly grabbed it out of the air. Fine, I'll chip it. Should be easy enough with these. I mentioned, waving my hands. I guess it was about time for me to start actually interfacing with my guns. There is still tons more, but I don't know what all of this is. Vic's? I asked the boys, and while I got a response from both boys that reminded me of trying to take a bone away from a wild dog. Slowly we gathered everything together, but got sidetracked by Hiromi. Change of plans. She yelled imperiously, pointing at me. You are my bodyguard while we make sales. Then she turned and pointed at Ichi. And you need to drive the truck. Malcolm will be with you holding a shotgun. We can start having fun with the loot soon, but I want to get this over with. I already got a sale for some. Let's go. She called, pointing at my quadra. You already made the sales? I already made some contacts thanks to your fixer. I was just waiting to know the loot. While Malcolm was loading everything up, I was already putting out feelers. You are allowed to worship my amazingness. She proclaimed, hands on her hips. Yes, almighty fixer. Please allow us to help you sell the loot. Excellent. Let's go. Malcolm. Get that stuff loaded into the quadra. I already know Motoko isn't going to let us sell any of it before her ripper gets first look. Ichi. Secure the truck, I want to get some of this sold off tonight before it gets any later. Ugh. I guess I'm chauffeur and bodyguard girl now. But at least Hiromi stopped barking orders at me. The sales were interesting. No, stop trying to rip me off. You wanted the canisters of flunitrazepam? You pay up for it. She snapped at the ripper that she was selling the loot to. Of course it was only because Hiromi was Hiromi that the guy hadn't turned us away for being scavs or something. This was the third shop we had hit. And she was selling the stuff we had clept. Including the ripper's tools and chair. Apparently Charles had been a naughty boy. He had been making enough eddies with his Scav friends, he had a lot of top-of-the-line stuff. Hiromi was selling it off piecemeal. We had of course stopped at Vic's first, for a surprise sale, and dropped off the boxes of actual cyberware that he had agreed to look through and pick out the choice bits for us, as well as figure out what everything was. He had even paid Hiromi, I mean us. He had paid us for a new diagnostic tool that he liked the look of. Which made me happy. I forced Hiromi to give him a discount though. She had refused at first, but I put on my sexy voice and told her it was happening, and that had stopped any attempts at refusal. Honestly, I had mostly done it to mess with Vic, but I'm glad my mature voice seems to make people listen to me. And then, despite how action-packed it was, it started getting late, and we all decided to call it a night. Ichi took his much emptier truck and would store it securely in a garage that Jotaro had originally bought to do exactly what he was doing, hiding loot. A place to store a truck full of expensive stuff until it was sold off. The money was flowing in, although we were keeping it all together for now until we were ready to divvy it out. It was a good haul, and everyone was super happy. Ichi's money problems would be solved for at least a little longer. Malcolm and Hiromi were happy. And I was just glad my friends were happy. Well, that and 5k XP closer to a level up. I'm home. I called out as I walked inside the apartment. The lights were still on, so I knew Jun was in. Welcome home. He called out, and I saw his hand wave from his bed as I walked into the bedroom and then into my little room. I peeled out of my new armored suits jacket with a sigh. It was funny, I was so used to wearing my leotard and jeans that wearing something like this just felt weird. The jacket was tossed onto a dresser, and then I peeled myself out of the armored top and pants. Honestly, they were a useful bit of gear, even if the looks were super basic, the sort of brown base, broken up by patches of the gray Kevlar, the only spark to them. They looked super basic. And what kind of merc or edge runner would I be if I wore something like this all the time? I had only picked it up and wore it so my crew would do the same. I wasn't that worried about a few bullet holes, but it was a different story for my chums. Once I was free, I grabbed one of my leotards and slipped into it, feeling much more comfortable with how free I felt wearing one. Then, without bothering to put on any pants, I walked back out and grabbed my guitar. I had honestly been pretty bored hanging around as Hiromi sold equipment to fences and rippers, so I really wanted to de-stress. Flopping onto the couch, I kicked my feet up on the armrest of it and just closed my eyes as I started striking some chords. It wasn't any particular song, no lyrics beside my humming, but I let myself relax and move away from the killing and death that made up most of my day. So you hit a Scav den that was working with a ripper? Yep. From the emails, he would do work on some people, and some people would just disappear. I told Jun the next morning as we ate breakfast together. Disgusting. He dead? Put a bullet in him myself. I assured him as I chomped into my XXL burrito. It wasn't good, but I was feeling lazy and I didn't want to leave the apartment yet. I would eventually. After school, Hiromi was going to try and sell more stuff, but that was later this afternoon. Glad you didn't get hurt, he finally said as he finished his burrito and tossed the wrapper in the trash. They never even knew I was there. I did get another kill with a guy watching a BD though. That never gets old. Jun snorted at my words and patted my head a bit, and I winced before kicking at him. Ow. Stupid chrome gorilla hands, go get some real skin. Do I have to buy it for you? I yelled at him as he dropped his stupid chrome hands a bit too hard on my head. He winced a little as he lifted his hands up. Sorry, Amuto. I didn't even think about it. Go see Vic. Moron. Dummy. He'll take care of you. I know you've been avoiding him. Hiromi just sold him some real skin too. Actually, did you know it comes in these weird canisters? Apparently you have to grow it. Well, it expands, I mean. It's weird stuff. I muttered, kinda waving my hands around. Vic had been happy to receive the canisters pretty cheap. Lot of people that couldn't afford it could use some skin to feel more human. Jun snorted at my rambling, but he got serious a moment later. Alright. Fine. I'll go see a ripper and get some real skin. He grumbled at me as he rose up and grabbed his jacket. Ah. Good. Go right now. I want a big hug when you come home. Yeah, yeah. He mumbled tiredly, obviously done with my teasing. One yeah is enough. I corrected with a laugh as he flipped me off as he closed the door behind him. Huh. What am I gonna do now? I could poke Regina. She had said she would have a gig for me soon, but I wasn't in a rush and she said she would let me know. I didn't really want to go try and track down the next Scav base from the info I got out of the den right now, so I guess just lay around? I looked over at my mess of mechanical parts. At my laptop full of programming I was still working on. That seemed like work though. I reached over to grab my guitar and sat up. Music time. I did take a break from music to do some more programming, but funnily enough while listening to the radio a song came on that I liked and I ended up grabbing my guitar and playing along. I fell into a habit. I was listening to the radio, and whenever a song I liked came on, I would sing along and play with it. Of course I would switch over to different stations. It was kinda hard to play electronic music on my guitar after all. Which is part of the reason I wanted my music box to be programmed. I did have a lot of projects on my hands, but I was having fun, so that's all that matters. Of course I was in the middle of singing along when the front door suddenly burst open. I looked. Hiromi looked back. I looked. Hiromi grinned. Hiromi! I yelled at her as I swiftly tried to hide the guitar from her as she pounced on me. Motoko! She yelled back in delight as she started laughing at me. I wasn't blushing. It was just embarrassing. No one besides June was supposed to know. Hiromi, you need to learn to knock. How could I? I heard my Motoko out in the hall, singing her heart out. I had to rush in and see. She proclaimed as she continued hugging me as I tried to peel her off and put the guitar away. I quickly glanced over at the radio, and it shut off with a quick thought. Ah. Motoko. Finally managing to put the guitar on its stand, I reached down to the giggling girl and put both hands on her cheeks, forcing her to meet my eyes. You saw and heard nothing, I told her firmly. Even using my sexy voice. She just grinned. That meant she agreed. Right? You should have heard it itchy. It was Supreme Motoko was totally jamming out standing on her couch. No one will find any of your bodies, I promised as I continued to hide my face against Itchy's truck. The cool steel just barely kept me from overheating. She had promised not to tell anyone. She tried to make me promise not to tell, but I mean. Come on. Of course I will. Death. I whimper whispered. Motoko, when did you start playing the guitar? I don't think you did before the coma or anything. Malcolm asked, ignoring Itchy and Hiromi, both trying to embarrass me more. It's all Hiromi's fault. What? How? You made me sing during the nomad barbecue. I realized I wasn't any good at it, so I decided to start practicing. Wait. Motoko, did you really get so embarrassed about your bad singing during the barbecue that you secretly went out and bought a guitar to learn some music? Hiromi asked, suddenly staring at me with her big old green eyes. It wasn't a secret. June knew. Motoko. You are the cutest ever. She whispered, barely hiding the massive grin behind her hands. No. I denied, but Hiromi was soon sage nodding at me, Itchy joining in. The jerk. You got so embarrassed about singing you went and bought a guitar to learn and practice? Itchy asked for a moment. Cute. I'm dangerous. Not cute. I demanded, stomping my foot to prove my danger. It didn't work. You weren't that bad at singing, Motoko. You didn't have to get so cute about it. Hiromi said, and I frowned. I'm not bad at singing. You weren't really great either, Motoko. Hiromi offered gently as she walked over and threw an arm over my shoulder, but it's cute you have a weak point. Weak point? Me? Never. Weak points are where you get hit for massive damage. I refuse. I walked over to the quadra and popped the door, and after a moment it was on the radio blaring to life. And then right in front of my crew, I started belting out the song alongside the radio. A minute later, as the song came to an end, I was breathing a little heavily. My face was absolutely bright red, but my chums were all staring in shock. That was actually pretty preem. Holy shit. Malcolm said, looking at me in a bit of shock. Motoko. When what? You didn't know how to sing like a week ago. What happened? Hiromi asked, marching forward and grabbing my arms and shaking me a bit. I learned. I realized I didn't know how to sing at the camp, so I made sure to spend some time learning. Turns out, I'm pretty good at music in general. I just needed some practice. I told her. Lying my ass off. Thank you, gamer system. I would be a talentless hack without you. Please forgive me for not telling anyone about your wonder. Ugh. Hiromi coughed like someone had just punched her in the chest as she took a few stuttered steps back until she hit the truck. How can she be so perfect at everything? Itchy. Don't look at me, Hiromi. I've grown completely used to Motoko making me look like a gonk at everything. He said, sighing as he walked over and joined her beside the truck, both of them just sort of staring off into nothing. Hiromi at the ground, Itchy at the roof. Rude. I muttered to myself. I don't know, Toko. This is kinda crazy. Malcolm spoke up, still standing beside me as he looked over our chums. I mean, it's one thing to be good at fighting. Or sneaking. Or singing, but you were just good at all of them. I just practice a lot. I argue, feeling awkward, that I was basically cheating in my ability to learn new things. Besides, we aren't here to pick apart Motoko's hobbies. I remind them, pointing at the truck. We are here to make some eddies. She's right. Itchy agreed, coming back to reality at the mention of money, as he stopped staring at the ceiling like a zombie. Alright, Section 9, on your feet, let's get this taken care of. Hiromi, that means you. He said. Eh. I couldn't help but gasp out as I pointed at Itchy. WW, what did you just say? I demanded, shocked. Section 9. It's what you called us yesterday, remember? Itchy said, and then to my horror, he smiled. You're teasing me. I don't know what you're talking about. Come on, Section 9. Let's get moving. He called out, and the traders all followed after. My chums. Betrayal. Hey, you can't use that. Section 9 is. It was just a joke. Nope, we all decided. Section 9 it is. Come on, Motoko, load up. Hiromi needs to show up in a preem ride to make the sales. He reminded me as Hiromi already settled into my quadra. My chums were teasing me. I slipped into the quadra as Itchy and Malcolm started driving off, literally ignoring me as they left. You guys are being mean. I complained to Hiromi as I started following. Is a little teasing too much? Well, now you know how we feel after you keep changing your voice. Hiromi mentioned, poking me in the side. I thought it was cool. It was very cool. Yes, but don't tease us if you can't handle getting teased back. She said, reaching up and pressing a finger against my cheek. Where did you even get Section 9 from anyways? Some TV show or something? New? I denied. Nailed it. For some reason, my denial didn't seem to convince Hiromi though. Gonk. I pouted and refused to say anything else about Section 9 as we drove to another ripper that was willing to buy some stuff.